Safety Doc Podcast with author, radio host, and nationally recognized safety expert, Dr. David Perrodin. Join us each week as we discuss the best and most bizarre practices in safety preparation and crisis response. Follow Dr. Perrodin on Twitter at SafetyPhD. And remember, the truth will keep you safe.
Hey everybody, it is your good friend Dr. David Perrodin from down here in the North Star Recording Studio. It's been a busy one. Let me tell you what's been going on. So, nothing bad. Well, it's cold, but I am teaching a university course this semester, as I have for the last 18 years, and I switched to a phone call final exam during the pandemic because obviously wasn't face-to-face then, and people's schedules were getting all messed up and stuff like that. So I flexed, and for the first time ever said, well, we can do this by phone, not by video chat or anything like that, like by phone. So you have the rubric, and we'll get through things, and that worked really well. So I carried it forward into this year. But in the calendar, then a lot of people have scheduled today, and like tomorrow, I've got like this crazy day of till 8 o'clock at night is the very last final examination. Then the class is done. So, but I think it's been a really good change to provide that for students. So, well, I guess we'll get started here. Did you have an election? Yes, we had an election. Did I win? No, I was hammered. It wasn't even close. So I lost like 2-1. And so it's okay. It is okay. Yeah, it was interesting. I was watching 3 screens in front of me, right? I was doing some stuff Tuesday night, and then I was refreshing, waiting for the votes to come in, and then like in one refresh, it was like, boom, like 100% of precincts, and I lost. So I was a little bit surprised because, well, my opponent didn't participate in the paper interview for our local newspaper, and I did. So that was out there 2 weeks before I donated my book to the library. That was front page news. My picture was on the front page, and but I don't know. It was I thought it'd be closer. Actually, I thought I'd win, but our mayor lost by the same ratio. So just a lot of changes out there, but I don't feel bad. I mean, it was one of those things where if it happened, it happened, and if it didn't, well, I didn't invest in 100-yard signs or things like that. So I think the person who was my opponent will, represent the district, and so, but yeah, actually, some people have contacted me and said it's probably a relief, right? Because, with the meetings and things, I said, well, in a way, it would occupy, up to like 6 meetings a month, 2 mandatory meetings with the city, and then the commission, or these committees you get appointed to in the city has like 22 committees. So in that aspect, yeah, and especially because we have such a short summer, like literally Thursday it will be 37 degrees for a high here. So our summer is like May to September. I would even say summer, like our livable outdoor things, like if you like to bike and things. So I'm kind of glad not to have some of those things siphoned off, but it was a good experience. The Post Bob said, yeah, it was. I don't regret running for office and things like that. I've gotten the condolences from my neighbors. They're like, oh, we're so sorry. I'm like, well, I don't know. Okay, I'm not that sorry. But one of the coolest experiences of this was the community forum for all the candidates, and that got heated at times. So because I'm just running, right? Like you can't really pin anything on me. I'm not the cause of what's been happening. So, but there were some times when people go like right after some of the older persons, like, it's you and whatever. On like my area town is flooded and everything in my basement was ruined, and the city's not doing anything about it. So I'm like, well, I just kind of got to sit back and watch some of that. So, but yeah, no, I'm glad I did it. I mean, if I would have been elected, I would have done a good job. But I'm not. So again, not a bad thing. So might have been a higher calling. So yeah, you know what? I New York Outcast. So one of it, the office was city council. So that's what I was running for, to represent my ward, or my ward 2. So it may have been a higher calling. So yeah, I with a book, right? Philosophy of Information is out, which if you don't have this book, I mean, it is out there in paperback, ebook, on Amazon, other places sell books, but it's really, really good. Really, 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 really good. I've been signing copies of this book. I have a stack in back of me over there, which is those will all be sent out. Those will be sent out of the US. So people buy the book and then they'll be like, I want it sent to Qatar. And I'm like, okay, like we got to figure out the shipping on this, or, wherever it is. And then I, charge them for the shipping in the book and sign it, and it goes out, and it seems to always get to where it's supposed to be. So, yeah, that's kind of, that's been good stuff. The book was picked up, today was the official release. So like the AP release and some others went out today. That was always scheduled for April 11th. That was the original release date of the book. Then it got moved up to April 1st. And because the marketing had already been programmed in for April 11th, they didn't move the release date, or the press release. So the press release came out this morning. So like that's worked its way around the country. I've been getting a lot of contacts by people wanting to do interviews, like TV stations, radio, stuff like that. So responded to quite a few tonight. That similar to School of Airs. When School of Airs came out, I had like a week of interviews that I did. So it's the same thing going on here, which is all good. So, but it also has been picked up for a couple feature articles, which is good, because then those really get, saturated in SEO, right? So people Googling the book or Googling my name, it shows, how far north are you? So let's get that. Let's do. I only trust the local papers a little for national, international news. Only Epoch Times. Yeah, I like the Epoch Times too. How far north are you? I live about an hour north of Madison, Wisconsin. I grew up like 3 hours north of Madison, Wisconsin, but I live 2 hours north. It has been unseasonably cold here. Actually, the last like 40 days have been, I think, 39 or 38 out of 40 have been below normal, and this has been the coldest stretch we've had. Now, with that said, Wednesday will be like 70, but then it drops like 37, then it stays like 40 for like 5 days in a row. And I mean, you really have to look to May now to get 60s and sunny. And, again, I guess it depends upon where you live. I wish I didn't live in this state anymore. I don't like the cold weather as I get older. I didn't like it when I was younger, but anyway, yeah, it just narrows, I love biking. So then it takes me a month to get in biking shape, right? Like you can't just do 100-mile bike ride after not doing a bike ride since like last October. So it takes a while. And then eventually, once it gets to, June, July, August, September, then I'll be doing the 100-mile rides. But yeah. So let's go over here. Traverse City, North Petoskey, South Magna, North. Boy, I don't know, man. Don't have a map in front of me right now. But if you know where Madison, Wisconsin is, I am 1 hour north on the interstate from Madison, Wisconsin. So Pokes Bob. Hey, Toy Town. Good to see you. Jim. Good to see all you here. I had to scarf down some food and a Mountain Dew here before the show, because, as I said, I was doing my phone call final examinations up until almost the bell rang here, and then I had a reboot. I would still run on Windows 7, and its reliability has drastically declined here in the last month, and I'm pretty close to disassembling the unit and taking it in, and we have a local computer place here, and I think it's time for this the CPU to get some attention. So the CPU is probably, when I had it built from scratch, it was probably 3-4 grand back 7-8 years ago. So I think there's a lot of internal solid stuff that could just stay, but I think it's time for the whole system to be upgraded, some components and things like that. But Madison is pretty central, right? I don't know about central. Madison's very liberal. So we were on vacation to South Dakota a couple of years ago, and we stopped in Custer State Park, and this RV stopped next to us, and there's a guy and his wife, and they had been retired. They travel the country in their RV, and he said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Portage, Wisconsin." It's not hard to find where I'm from, right? But he said, "Well, where's that?" I'm like, "It's north of Madison, close to Madison." He's like, "Madison, that's really a liberal area." I'm like, "Yeah, we're not kind of like that." I said, "Yes, it is." So he's stepping back. I'm like, "No, I don't really subscribe to the Madison politics." So Jim's like, it was lovely for a while today, a warm noon to 4:00 p.m. So it wasn't cold here today necessarily. It was maybe about somewhere in the 40s and windy. But I had to go and Rain-X my windshield, because on my Buick LaCrosse, it's hit and miss whether the windshield wipers will actually work when you move the stock, right? It's like 50-50. If I pull over and restart the car, it usually resets itself. Thankfully, it's still under warranty, so they're going to look at it in a week. But Wednesday is supposed to be rainy, and I need to do some traveling on Wednesday. So if there was an instance where the wipers puked out on me, I needed to heavily Rain-X the windshield to make sure I'd still be okay, right? So it is Vanessa. Hey, Vanessa. So Vanessa, we have 49 reviews out there for School of Errors. So we need to motivate somebody to do their 50th review. We have 49 reviews. We have 2 reviews for the new book, The Velocity of Information, which is an awesome book. So yeah, I am doing a library donation of this book on Wednesday in my hometown where I grew up in northern Wisconsin. Yeah, I'm making the trek back. They did a newspaper article about me in this book, and it took up like two-thirds of a page. It's really cool. And they are coming out with their photographer. It's the same guy who's run the newspaper for 40 years, right? So they cover like 4 small cities up there. It's a very genuine, well done, local newspaper. He's coming out, and he's going to get a photo of me donating this book right to the local library. And the local library, by the way, is beautiful. It was built in 2010. So it's modern. It's next to the indoors. We have an Olympic-sized pool in the town I grew up in, like 1,500 people that was donated. So it's kind of a wealthy community. It has a lot of attributes to it. So, but I am, so I'm donating the book on Wednesday. So, and actually a weird, quirky thing with a book donation is like, for some reason, I can never sign my name the same twice. Like my signature is always real weird and off. So I can practice, and I do. And I think if I were to write a third book, which I doubt I will, but I would sign it in just print, right? Like I have a pretty cool way that I print my name that looks really consistent, really cool. When I do cursive though, you could take 100 cursive signatures, put them before experts, and they'd be like, these are 100 different people. I mean, there's almost no similarity. And so I feel bad when I sign a book for somebody like in Canada or like Saudi Arabia or Poland or Germany, and I'm like, oh man, this isn't like my best signature. Like I've got a nice quote in here for you. I've got my authentic stamp in the book, but they don't really but I feel bad about it because I'm like, I practiced. I have like a whole page of signatures I wrote. I signed them with my Mont Blanc. So the non-fade ink, just my pen that I only use for that, the pen that I got at auction. So yeah. Final warming up here. Still got some snow the other day. Pokespop, you're in the Chicago area, right, buddy? So I don't know, man. I am so fed up with so fight to repair. Louis Rossman. I completely agree. I'm so fed up with just cold and winter. It's just not me. Like I'm lobbying to move. I'm the only one in the house so far who's on board with that. But I'm like ready to be out of here. I just I love to bike, right? I'm a cyclist. So when you can only do that for half the year, and now like when you look and you're like, I'm age 50, so like you start to amateurize that out. And I'm like, this really sucks because if I lived in northern Georgia or, outside of Tallahassee, Valparaiso, or Port St. Joe or something like that, Florida, I could bike 10, 11 months of the year, no problem. So, it's like my friend Aaron Clary, when he moved out of Minneapolis and built his house in South Dakota, and then, his place in Las Vegas. So he can kind of toggle between the two depending upon the weather. But like, it is really the biggest thing when you sit down and think about it. And it's so weird because I look back and I never liked winter. I mean, there were things I did in winter. I had a snowmobile, I had a three-wheeler. I mean, there were things, but I never liked winter. And I should have realized early on when I had a chance to get away from the state and go to a warmer climate, like I should have jumped at it. And I didn't. So I kind of regret that. But, Aaron wrote the book Reconnaissance Man, which I reviewed. I think it's very important that you need to check out places when you're younger and kind of match them with your interest. So, I mean, if you're into snowshoeing and ice fishing and snowmobiling and all that, then I guess this is your area. But if not, like, either if you're going to college, go somewhere where it's warm, or take your first job somewhere, for a year or two where it's warm, get an idea. But yeah, I did not do that. So thankfully I do have friends in southern parts of the US who are always like, hey, like come out here. We'll pick you up at the airport and you can hang out for a week and at least, experience what it's like to have 80 degrees and sunny in February, March. So I appreciate all of them. So Jim is saying cleaning out literal dirt and software will help. Going through and replacing the thermal paste should help. Yeah, I don't think I'd have my computer I don't think needs to be rebuilt. I have 32 gig of RAM, 3.3 gigahertz processor. It's in a big metal case. Like I had it custom built by hand, I just think I need to go from Windows 7 to 10 or 11 or whatever it is now. And then also just a clean install. And, maybe more RAM. I think I have the capacity for 64 gig of RAM. I'm sure I do. And I know one of my fans puked out. One of my fans doesn't work anymore. So I think just kind of those things, but I don't think anything else need to be ditched. Like I have the CD player. I have like the card reader in the front for the different cards, which I still use for my various old cameras and devices and things like that. So I don't want to mess with any of that. And I think I have a solid state drive from the main drive. I think I'd have all of them replaced and upgraded to faster solid state drives. But and my monitors are all new as of 2019. I upgraded all of my monitors before all the crunch out there. So I'm good. I have 3 monitors in front of me. So I think it's just a matter of upgrading some of the components in the box. So it may be going again to Windows 10 or 11. So more RAM and upgrading to SSD. And if I won't make it like new, but more RAM, faster. Yeah. So, so I think, and I don't do a lot outside of the podcasting, and things are pretty good. I might get I don't know. My camera's really good. I don't want to mess with that. That's an old camera that I have in front of me, old Logitech, but I can do a second camera and things like that. But So I don't have to, again, I don't have to mess around with this too much. Pick your favorite, make a stamp. What is that exactly, Jim? Hey, it's Heath. Hey, buddy. So, it's Andrew. How do I get the girls? What's a good business idea? A good business idea. I was talking to one of my friends the other day about this. I think there will be in the next year, I bet you, there'll be an app and you will be able to get gasoline delivered to your house or to a location to fill up your car. Because of carjackings, right? I think it was Santa Monica in California where they're saying like there's just this wild increase in carjacking and stuff like that. I believe there will be an app in the next year, where the gas trucks will drive to your house or location and they'll fill up your car there because people don't want to go to gas stations. And I think that's one thing that's going to be business. I also think if you're into education, for example, I think teachers, there are going to be agents like sports agents. I think there will be agents for teachers, and it's going to be more in high needs areas such as chemistry, mathematics, things like that, that you are going to be able to get an agent. They'll contact you and say, hey, listen, like, where are you willing to move? I mean, what are all these conditions? And they'll take like whatever finder's fee or a cut because these deals are being negotiated individually by districts. So it already happens for superintendents around the country. If you're a superintendent, it's very likely that you are paying into a firm that is getting your name out there and stuff like that. But anyway, short sleeve suits is another thing. If you can master that. Good to see you, One Fast Deck, our good friend from Alberta, Canada. Man, I don't know what the temperature is by you. I imagine it's colder. I don't know for sure though, but yeah. I honestly, I just don't know how anybody lives up there. Like I've been watching Curiosity Inc. and Alex build his house, and all the installation stuff like that. I'm like, man, I just don't know, buddy. I mean, so cold, so much of the year. Plus, like, I don't know, 82 out right now. He thought, oh man, I wish I was where you were at, I guess, because the thing is, like in summer, I bought a lawn chair last year, like a nicer lawn chair, just so I could sit in my driveway and just hang out and soak up the sun, which I did like many, many days after biking or whatever. And I'm like, I just haven't been able to do that yet. I'm supposed to, the concrete guy hasn't got back to me. It's supposed to replace a concrete pad on the side of my house, which would extend this area on the side of the garage where I could put my lawn chair and stuff like that. But anyway, Phoenix has the most bicycle trails in the nation. Interesting. That would be something if I were to move like that. I've been looking at like what are the bike trails, because it's such an ingrained part of me. I mean, it's really my hobby, right? Like it is just what I do. So it's Heath. Hey, and so let me do this shameless plug here. So for all of you out there, the Velocity of Information, it is available in paperback. I think it's well worth it. And the publisher sets the price. I don't. So I know it's a commitment to purchase the book. It's very, very well done. I spent a year and a half writing this. It had like 3 editors that went through it, a citations editor, and it's got custom graphics. It's really well done. Like you're not going to read this and find spelling errors, stuff like that. And the paperback is really well done, also like assembled. So like you're not going to open it and pages fall out, stuff like that. But this is a phenomenal book. 10 interviews, Larry Lawton, America's biggest jewel thief. Linda Stone, who was one of the first employees back in the, I think it was Apple era. Looking at search engines and the whole thing of like, hey, like, if you would return more than 10 results in a search engine search, like you'd freak people out. So, but this is such a well done book. And if you're not going to buy it, please take a couple minutes, find your local library, and just email them, their email address and say, there's this book, The Velocity of Information by Dr. David Perodin. And I want it to be in our collection because it's awesome. 10 interviews and talks about the human condition and chaos, which we're in right now. Like, that's it. And it's amazing. If you email your library and you live there, this wouldn't work for me, right? If I try to email different libraries across the country, it wouldn't work. But if you live there, right, and you say, this is my local library, I live here, in most cases, they'll buy it because they inform their buying purchases by what their constituents want, what their patrons want. And if you want this and you're in that community, they'll usually buy it. There's that, it's almost like a 90%, that they'll do it. It's really high correlation. So if you want to help me out and not buy the book, and again, which I'm saying, I mean, I understand where the publisher puts the price in that. Contact your local library. It'll take you a couple minutes. I mean, you'll find a library site, you'll have an email address and say, boom, here's the book. Here's the author. It just came out. It's awesome. And you should add it to the collection for our patrons. Boom, that's it. And, by the way, like, I live here. This is my community. Most cases, they'll do it flat out. So I'm just checking. My book is showing up now in libraries all over all over the country. It was just added in Toledo. Let's see where else it's at. Germany has two. Well, Germany has one library in London, Madison, Wisconsin, Parkersburg, West Virginia, Library of Congress, and so on. So part of it is too, like, you have to almost say it's not a textbook because it is from a scholarly publisher. So sometimes people will be like, or I should say librarians will be like, well, that's a textbook. It's not a textbook, right? It's 10 awesome interviews, including Larry Lawton, America's Biggest Jewel Thief, who is a character on Grand Theft Auto. Larry's going to have me on his show, by the way. He sent me a really nice email. I sent him a signed book. I interviewed Larry. So, Larry shows, it's kind of crazy, right? Because he gets like $20,000 in super chat for a show. So, 1.5 million YouTube followers and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. But so yeah, I'm going to be on. We haven't set up the time for that. It'll be soon. Be in the next week or two. So Larry Lawton's a great guy. So Heath is biking here just at 5 miles a time. I see. I can take the heat. People, I mean, that's a weird thing I don't get about people here in Wisconsin or stuff like that. Relatives will be like, well, it's, you don't want to move to the south because it's so hot. I'm like, I love the heat. If it's 100 degrees out here, like, I will bike. Like, I love the heat. There is, like, it's not a negative. And like, they don't acknowledge also, like, oh, like, it's too hot. I'm like, we have days here where it's minus 30 degrees plus a wind chill. I'm like, so there's a, like, how can you ignore the impact of how much it sucks to live in a cold environment? I mean, just really, I just can't, it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, I know that I love the heat. I know the hotter it is, I just love to be out biking. I love to be outside. I love to be doing things. It doesn't faze me. Like, I just embrace it. So if you are working, snow and cold are just hindrances. No kidding. They're just hindrances in general. And it messes with your vehicles. I mean, in winter, I got to always take them in, get them washed off because they're just caked with salt, road salt. Just eats away at them. And that's a pain in the ass to try to deal with that. So what winter looks like is taking a bucket of hot water out to the vehicle ahead of time before you take it to the wash and trying to get the most prominent salt laden spots loose and then take it to the wash. And then 2 days later, it's all back again, but you're just trying to, then, you got to wax the vehicle like crazy to build up, resistance to that stuff. But that's what kind of did in our 14-year-old vehicle that we got rid of. Was it started to rust out, even though I'd repainted it personally like a couple of times. But Doc, were you DAC stream last night? I wasn't in DAC stream last night, so I was not. No. unless your job business is a snowplow driver. Yeah. And actually, we haven't had a lot of events which have caused snowplow drivers to go out. So it's kind of just this middling, cold, freezing rain, sleet type weather. So, yeah. So if you're a snowplow driver, we haven't had a blizzard this year. We just had, though, 1 to 6 inches of snow and just really cold and overcast and gray. So, I mean, I would appreciate a blizzard. Like when we moved here, we had some blizzards where I have to, shovel out we have a direct vent water heater, so I have to make sure that was always like shoveled out and stuff like that, and get out a couple times to clear the driveway with my snow blower right before you had big drifts. But we haven't had that either, so I don't know. It's not for me. Like there's no convincing for me. I have friends who are like, "Hey, Northern Georgia," so they'll like send me links and stuff like that. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm there," or like Tallahassee, Greater Tallahassee. I'm like, "I'm there." It wouldn't take any convincing to move me to a warm weather climate. So, by the way, I am narrating my book, School of Errors: Rethinking School Safety in America. I got the new artwork for it today. It looks good. It's a little off from what I sent into Walmart photo to make. So I'm looking over on the walls. It's not. No one will really notice. It doesn't really make that big of a deal, so I don't really care about it. But anyway, I have 2 days in studio remaining, and one will be Friday, and then maybe Wednesday or Friday next week, and that'll be it. And then my sound engineer will finish editing things up, make me sound great, and that'll be out in Find Away Voices. So we are all good there. That will be out in July 15th. The paperback of School of Errors releases on a delayed release, and then but I might release it earlier. I think as soon as I can release School of Errors in audio, I will. Although, like, you kind of want a little build up to that, but I don't think I'll do like a press release for it. I just don't think it's worth it. But it is. I narrated again at the local sound studio, which has been a great experience. I've enjoyed that. So then that book will be out in School of Errors will be in audio, paperback, hard copy, and ebook. So anyway, so it's not your RAM. Your version of Windows has to work twice as hard to run new programs. Yeah, I need to update. So just need to. I meant the unique signature. I suppose it's not a signature if you have a rubber stamp. I never signed my name with a rubber stamp, but I do have a rubber stamp here that I had made from a small mom and pop company in Ohio. And this just says signed by the author and has my name and the title of the book. That gets stamped on every book that is also signed by me. So it's kind of that double way to like authenticate, right? Like if anyone's going to try to resell one of these saying, hey, it's signed by the author, but it is a way to authenticate. And I take it to book signing events, right? That this book has been signed by the author, right? So it's the fascinating part of the velocity of information, though, is the worldwide interest in it. When I say that, it's not like hundreds of people are trying to get me to sign books and send them out, but it is a substantial number. I didn't have that with School of Errors. There were some, but I mean, this book, and I'm not set up for that. Like, so I've had to kind of adapt things to that. Literally, where I'm like, what is your address? And, so I gather his address. I go down to the post office with a book, and they weigh it. And I said, what would it cost to send this to whatever, Qatar or Poland or Cambodia or whatever? And they're like, here's what it would cost. So then I'm like, okay. Then I let the person know. And no one has said no. No one said like, that's too expensive, because at that point, they already expect that they're going to be spending a lot of money. They just want me to sign the hard copy. So it's pretty impressive. Like I'm always like, thank you so much for doing this and believing in my work and stuff. They're like, no. So, and by the way, like PBS TV has been showing my 2019 special like crazy. Like it is airing everywhere, but they're really hitting up like the Jacksonville Florida area, and Houston, Texas. Like it's in where I'm at here, it's like in daily programming, like at 4 a.m. or something. But I go places now and people say, like, you're the guy on TV. And I'm like, it was 3 years ago. But I don't, the thing is though, it times out at an hour, right? So it's perfect in programming. And if there's any violence or school stuff, like PBS like searches for what's available and they pull it in. It is just amazing that how much play that gets nationwide every day. Reno, like South Carolina, Iowa, so yeah, I usually find out in the morning when I wake up and I'm going through my email, because I have a slide at the start of that presentation that has my email address, my personal email address. And people will go back and they'll find it, it aired on TV, but they'll go to like their local PBS, like WXEL or whatever the hell it is. And they'll be like, I'll find it and they'll email me and say, hey, like, and it's always good. But it is pretty cool to get those emails from people. I respond to everybody. So usually let them know, hey, I have a new book out. But I appreciate PBS. Like my SEO is just wild, right? For you type in my name and all this PBS stuff starts to come up. So it really helps the book too, because in the book bio, like I indicate, I've been on PBS, but it just like, has been a really good thing. It's not good enough for me to be voted into public office in my own hometown, apparently, but still a good thing. Windows 10 is cheap. Yeah, I have the, I bought Windows 7 legitimately. I have the code. So apparently, and I have the key. I think I have Pro. So like the guy updated a laptop. Mine didn't cost anything. So like for the code, but yeah, it's time. I just need to go and do that. But I meant the unique signature issue. I suppose it's not quite a signature if you have a rubber stamp made. So Heath is saying the easiest and most proven way to make money is subscriptions. Right, you're right. And you don't need that many to have good money for just a service that people will have. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I don't know how that would specifically apply to what I'm doing. I thought about doing like a Substack type thing, but I don't know. I just don't know if I have enough content I produce that anybody would really realistically pay for, right? I do think that blog posts are very good. I put time into those. But yeah, I don't know. I think I missed the stream. So Vanessa saying maybe math teacher hiring salaries will be much higher this fall. We must all have completed a master's in math at the end of 2021 to maintain our yeah, no kidding. You're right, Vanessa. I would say in my state, like math teachers, $80,000. Some of those can be bonuses depending upon the districts where you're in. And also like if you are have like a language, like English as a second language certification. So yeah, there are definite areas. Math teachers, chemistry, speech language. That's a that's an $80,000 hiring plus bonus in a lot of the wealthier districts. And in the districts that aren't wealthy, and we have 421 districts, there's a lot of parity throughout the state, but that's still easily $70,000 plus full benefits. So all right, so hang on. I'm going to try this out here. Don't leave. So Dudak Casal, right, 2 thumbs up. We have 11 so far. So John Rice is like, I'm going to thumbs up. Don't leave, guys. We just got started here. So, but hang on for this. So give me 60 seconds. I'll be right back.
As chaos erupts, torrents of conflicting yet urgent messages gush from media outlets. What is the magnitude of the incident, and what should people do to protect themselves? Dr. David P. Perodin teaches you how to prevent mental burnout by observing indicators and building a robust member check network. Reporter James David Dixon of the Detroit News proclaims, the velocity of information will empower its readers. Drawing on current events, history, interviews, and scholarship, the velocity of information is an education in the way people react and adapt to change in this fast-spinning world. Never has it been more important to sift facts and stories for truth and meaning. There are teachable moments on every page. Buy The Velocity of Information, Human Thinking During Chaotic Times. Available from your favorite bookstore or online retailer.
All right, everybody. Now you just went and subscribed and bought. So one is subscribe to the channel. We've been hovering at 1,180 viewers for like 6 months. Like exactly. So that needs to go up. And the second is go in and buy that book and leave a positive review on Amazon. I think we're up to 2 reviews now. So celebrate that. But Amazon did not link out my, they messed up on my middle initial for the book on paperback. So it wasn't linking out to my profile. They just corrected it today. So here we go. There are 2 reviews. So book is selling well. And there are 2 reviews. So let's check on Kindle how it's doing. Doing good. So, all right. So, yep, 2 reviews out there. So we do have a theme actually we'll get into in a little bit here, but let's keep touching base here. I don't sign my name for a long time. I sign an R&W like the symbol. So yeah, they are. Yeah, I've printed my name as a signature for a long time. So now when I write it cursive, it's kind of weird. And I just think it also looks cooler when I print it. So although I've like signed most of the books and stuff like that. Well, I have never printed my name in a book. But I think if I were to like, that should have been my approach this year. I just think I have a cooler printed signature than I do a signed signature. But anyway, been using a symbol since my high school art class to sign anything. Yeah. Fort Worth has, this is from Vanessa, some great trails along the Trinity River and its branches throughout the city. Yeah, I'm there. So I need to come up with some plan because this was a very challenging winter for the dock. Just for the fact that it is a very long, cold winter. And I live in the second oldest city in Wisconsin. There are very few sidewalks. So if you're going to walk, you're going to walk on the street. So it's slippery, right? It's just really every time I'm out, there's some time you're slipping. And if you fall, like I learned to roll into falls, but like, it's things freeze during the day, depending upon where you're at, like the temperature. It just isn't a good place to like, right. If it's 25 degrees out in February, like, what do you really do? I mean, what are your options? So I did go on hiking trails, which give you a little more traction. And I have like cleated shoes for those. But even there, I'm still like, I would appreciate if this was 80 degrees. So I will buy 10,000 books when I win part. Wow. Andrew, do that. Donate all of them. Buy them under different names. Makes my SEO, my sales look better. Some nice trails. I just use the print signal when signing. I don't know why people are confused. It'd be pretty cool. I should use like a symbol. I have a pretty cool signature when I print. Like, I do think it looks really, really cool. And I'm kind of regretting, like, I didn't just adopt it. Like, what would people do? Like, they wouldn't say anything. They'd be like, this is a cool print signature. So, and then I have a list of 5 quotes that I pulled from the book that are like 1-sentence quotes that I give out to people. So, yeah, I found kind of a quirky thing is like when I sign stuff for relatives, like, they do not want the same quote as another relative. So if they find that out, like they're kind of like put off by that. Like, oh, you like wrote whatever for like whatever relative. And I'm like, there's like 5 quotes. Unless you give me something specific, you're getting one of these 5. So I always, or at least now, if it's relatives, I make sure that it is a different, a different quote. I kind of had like a smaller stable of quotes for School of Errors, but it's funny, like when you sign books, how people, I guess, I don't know what they, I don't know. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird experience, but it's been good. So my signature's after. Well, it's interesting, John. Yeah, I don't know. That's why I never made it in the NFL. If I was to sign merchandise, it'd be like you can never verify it. Let's get into tonight's show. And by the way, so just to recap, I did not win the election. I was soundly defeated by my opponent. So take that as you will. The weather sucks, but I'm otherwise doing well. And the official press release from the Associated Press and others today for the velocity of information came out today, this morning. And that's been working its way throughout the world, right? So actually, I get a print, I get a link, and it shows like all of the newspapers that ran the press release, and then all of the websites and like media and TV stations, stuff like that. And now I've been contacted by like a ton of like TV and radio and stuff like, could you come on and do an interview? So, like, which is very typical. This is exactly what happened after School of Errors was released with a press release, right? So, so that's all been good. So that's good stuff. So the press release is out there. So let me get the press release for you guys. So just, and if you have your social media, get it out there. So bought a bag of Doritos today, which I'm looking forward to later. Here it is. It's not the bag of Doritos, but this is the press release. So take that, share it on your social media sites. Please do Doc a favor. I'd appreciate that. So yeah, it's good. Builds the SEO for the book. It's been good to be getting that out there. So let me just change this here and make that the pin tweet. Good. Looks like that worked. It's definitely a slim chance that we'll survive this. Okay, the pin tweet is the official press release. So go in and share that. Put it on your Facebook, your Instagram, your Supergram, your Grammygram, anything you got out there. And just with, hey, like, this is an awesome book. Heavy Water saying, good luck with the book doc. My copy. Hey, well, great, buddy. I'm a slow read. Don't worry about it. I appreciate your review and that you're taking, that you bought it and you're reading it. And man, I think you're going to love it. You get to that chapter. Well, everything is great. Like the one thing I did with this book that is different than School of Errors. So School of Errors, I needed to state my credentials really strongly at the start, because if you're coming out talking about school safety, like you got to separate yourself from the pack. So there's this, this praise for School of Errors section at the start, right? And then there's like why you should listen to me, right? There's this whole section. But when you get into the velocity of information, none of that is there. We launch right off the bat. There's like a page or two telling you like, here's why I wrote this, here's what I'm trying to convey, and then it's boom, it's right into it. And then you have these 10 interviews, and Larry Lawton, America's biggest jewel thief, Robert Travis is 2 years on a crab boat and all this stuff. I mean, boom, it's right there. Nikolai Razvayu cycling in Kyiv, Ukraine, a day after the Chernobyl nuclear accident. So you're going to love it. That's chapter 2, and then it's just carry it through. So I appreciate that Heavy Water, and do appreciate the reviews. Reviews sell books. Like that is the biggest thing. Reviews sell books. We're at 49 reviews for School of Errors, so which is awesome. Many of you have left reviews, including Vanessa. Thank you so much. But that is it. I mean, people now look, and when a book has been reviewed a certain number of times, then also they look at who's reviewed it. They look at what the person has written, their credentials. That is the biggest selling point of a book, is the reviews on Amazon. So when you do that for me, that helps me immensely. I appreciate it so much. So today's topic is measuring the wet bulb effect. Okay, measuring the wet bulb effect, and we're going to talk about what that means right now. So One of the things when you guys review this, by the way, I would appreciate is because this came from a scholarly publisher, which also School of Airs did, but it's weird because some libraries are saying this is a textbook and we don't buy textbooks for our patrons. I'm like, no, it's not a textbook. It's from a scholarly publisher, so you have an assumption it's a textbook, but it's not. It's not at all. It's extremely narrative and interactive, and I'm talking to you, the audience, right? Um, so that's maybe something if you want to help me out in a review, saying like this is the author talking right to the audience. There's 10 interviews, like it's very vibrant and stuff like that, because for some reason, this is being slotted in as a textbook, which some libraries are saying, well, we don't buy textbooks. I'm like, well, it's not a textbook. Just because it came from a scholarly publisher does not mean that it's a textbook. Like, take some time to, I mean, there's like 45 pages of it on Google Books, like, that you can read. Like, you'll obviously know that it's not a textbook, and anybody's going to love this book, right? I mean, so Jim is saying, I wish you used MLA. I used APA with School of Airs. I used Chicago style with Philosophy of Information, which I like because as you go through and you're reading the chapters, you're not interrupted with citations, just the numbers, right, until you get to the end of the chapters. So, yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. Like, it's all publishing stuff. Like, so, yeah. I'm with you, Jim. I'm with you. I'm with you. That's kind of just the way School of Airs went. So appreciate it. So what is the wet bulb effect? So let's talk about this. So, wet bulb effect. This is a term I want you to know and use. I have my mic here in front of me. Wet bulb effect. Okay. So I already wrote the description for this book. Let me read the start of this and then get into this. Stagnant, sweltering summer days cocoon us with unshakable pulsing heat and sticky humidity in what is known as a wet bulb effect. It's downright uncomfortable. Our attention deviates from things at hand and centers on making an escape to our air-conditioned cars and dwellings. But the reprieve is temporary, and some of us lack the luxury of climate control other than sitting beneath the canopy of trees and sipping on a cold drink. Can we get this a little bigger? All right, here we go. But it's that combination of heat and humidity that agitates us, saps our energy, stifles our motivation, and can even knock us out with heat stroke. It's uncomfortable just thinking about it. And that's what most people have been doing the past 2 years, sweltering in their minds. Bad news is the heat, and unrelenting information is the humidity. And today's show, Doc, hey, that's me, explains the wet bulb effect as it relates to information and human attention. We'll learn how human attention works and ways to mitigate information overload during the uncertain times. Doc will read an excerpt from Wet Bulbs from pages 74, 75 of his book, The Velocity of Information and Human Thinking During Chaotic Times. By the way, I don't have my book up, so I have to bring the file up. But so what is a wet bulb? So a wet bulb, think about this. So a wet bulb is actually, you have two thermometers, right? You have two thermometers. And you put a dampened muslin cloth over one of these. So this one right here has a dampened muslin cloth over it. This one is just plain. And then you blow air over these two thermometers, right? This muslin cloth thermometer should evaporate, right? It should, this wetness of the cloth should go into the air. It should suck heat from the thermometer. And then, so the muslin cloth thermometer should be lower than the normal thermometer because it's been sucking the heat out. This air goes by it. As it evaporates, it's sucking the heat out. So that's the whole wet bulb effect of saying you have two thermometers. As you are blowing air over this wet bulb thermometer, it should be sucking heat from it and dropping the temperature of that. So let's say this non-wet bulb, this regular thermometer, is 70 degrees, and this other thermometer has a muslin cloth, a wet muslin cloth. It's blow air over it for 10 minutes. You check the temperature, it's 60 degrees. So that's a difference, right? So what that means is that the air has been able to absorb some of that moisture, suck that heat from that thermometer. So the difference in wet bulb versus dry bulb basically means like you have this amount of humidity, right? You have this amount of energy that can be sucked out of this wet bulb and put into the atmosphere. Now, here's the deal, right? If you have a really, really humid day, it's super humid, super hot, and you do this wet bulb. So you have this one thermometer, which has a muslin cloth over it that's wet, and another dry thermometer, and you blow air over both of these for like 20 minutes. You check them, and they're both like the same temperature. What does that tell you? Well, it tells you like this thermometer, which has this wet cloth over it, it's not evaporating because like there's so much humidity, right? There's so much humidity already in the air that you can't evaporate. So basically the temperatures are almost the same, or they're identical, right? 70 degrees and 70 degrees. So what is the meaning of this whole wet bulb thing? How's this relate to the book? I have an entire chapter on this, but if you have a wet bulb temperature that is equal or close to the dry temperature, it means that the air is saturated. It cannot take a lot of this heat away from the thermometer. So the problem with that is, let's say that you're a cyclist, you're a bicyclist like me, you love to bike, and the wet bulb is like, the wet bulb temperature is 2 degrees cooler than the dry temperature. So let's say the dry temperature is 85 degrees, the wet bulb is 83 degrees, meaning it's the dew point, exactly what Heath is saying. It's very humid outside. So if I go biking, right, it's very unlikely that the air is, when I'm sweating, I'm really hot, that the air is going to cool me down, right? Because the air is already saturated with this humidity. So if the wet bulb is close to the dry bulb, right, and it's hot, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to bike because all of my processes of trying to sweat and to try to cool down by sweating, it's just not going to happen because the air is already very humid. So this whole thing of a wet bulb is very important. If you're a cyclist, if you're a competitive cyclist, right, or you're an athlete or whatever, and you have a high wet bulb effect, you have to realize that you are not going to be cooled down by sweat. Your body's, and as the more you exert your forces and things like this, it just can increase your body temperature to the point where you could have heat stroke. It could be really bad. So I understand the wet bulb when I go out biking. If I bike on humid days, which actually I do like to bike on humid days, but I'm always aware of the wet bulb. Like if it's really close to where the temperature is, meaning like if I'm biking, I'm sweating, and there is going to be very little evaporation off of my skin, like to move the heat away from my body and to cool me down, my core temperature would rise. Like I will take steps to mitigate that, or else I, bike in shorter duration, bring more cool liquid, things like that. But there'll be some times when it just won't make sense to bike. Right? Wind. This is Vanessa. She's absolutely right. Wind. If you have wind, it's going to promote a wet bulb effect. It's going to move heat from your body. But if it's stagnant, it's not going to. So there's another part of this that I wrote about in the velocity of information. And let me read that quote for you right now. So this thing of wet bulb effect, meaning when we went out in 2020, 2021, and not only we went out, but our phone, everything that's coming to us, everything on the media, everything, you talk to your friends, what's the first thing you want to talk about? The pandemic. When all the information you're getting is about the pandemic, and you're just like, I can't get away from this. It's a wet bulb effect. Like it just saturates you. Whether you're in your house, it's coming through the media, it's coming through your phone. Whether you talk to your friends, it's coming through them. Whether you're out on the highway, it's dynamic signage. It says, hey, mask up, right? So you can't get away from it, right? It's just there. So there's a psychological wet bulb effect. So there's this physical effect, which we talked about, right? With biking, right? The humidity, all of that. But there's a psychological wet bulb where people get overwhelmed They are unable to escape. And sometimes even if they're indoors, right, you get away from things, right? This whole stuff of COVID-19 and pandemic and whatever, you still get soaked with it because your phone delivers it right to you, right? You're choosing to get that information. That's a search you're doing. You're bringing the wet bulb upon yourself. But let me read this. So, this is a quote from The Velocity of Information, a book I hope all of you buy. I hope all of you review. I know Vanessa will. She's awesome. Jim McIntosh is thinking about it. He's awesome. Here we go. Your phone buzzes is a push alert from the newspaper you trust and the governor's upcoming press conference on COVID-19. Another alert comes in an hour later. Case and death numbers and summary guidance from the press conference. The phone hiccups. I have hiccups. I have to take a swig of water here. The phone buzzes a third time. It is an emergency alert ordered by the governor. If you had somehow missed his commands earlier. On your way home, a dynamic messaging sign on the freeway encourages you to mask up. Hiccups. All right. Mask up. Your televised football game is interrupted by misty-eyed celebrities urging that we're all in this together. The 11 o'clock news will offer the very latest. Sorry about that. In a global pandemic at the height of the information age, we are all wet bulbs. Spinning away, we are not just wet, we are soaked. All right, let me grab a water. Hang in there, don't go anywhere.
As chaos erupts, torrents of conflicting yet urgent messages gush from media outlets. What is the magnitude of the incident, and what should people do to protect themselves? Dr. David P. Perodin teaches you how to prevent mental burnout by observing indicators and building a robust member check network. Reporter James David Dixon of the Detroit News proclaims, the velocity of information will empower its readers. Drawing on current events, history, interviews, and scholarship, the velocity of information is an education in the way people react and adapt to change in this fast-spinning world. Never has it been more important to sift facts and stories for truth and meaning. There are teachable moments on every page. Buy The Velocity of Information, Human Thinking During Chaotic Times. Available from your favorite bookstore or online retailer.
All right, I'm back. Still pickups, which is weird. I don't get them often. So they have to stop. It's crazy. Bear with me. It's crazy. Salted service inductee. I don't know. Someone to scare me like a ghost. Show up and back. This is crazy. I usually don't get this. So, oh my God. It just took a lot of water. So it's rare. But anyway, so this whole thing of a psychological wet bulb effect is meaning that during 2020 and probably 21, a lot of people never got out of the loop of bad news. So, and it just burned them out. So it's just absolutely crazy. But yeah, that's where, like my friend Aaron Clary will go up, hiking and, not have his phone. So, all right. Just hang in there for just a second. These hiccups are wicked. I never had these before. I'm back. I don't know if the hiccups are gone. Apparently not. I threw Musketeers bar, kind of did some jumping jacks, things like that. So I'm out of focus here on the other screen. Hopefully I'll come back. Oh! This is crazy. This will end. I'm sorry, but it's not intentional. Like somebody will take this and edit it into like a highlight video. What in the hell's going on here? Strange. I have no control over this whatsoever. So, yeah, I don't know here, Salted Surfer. Sorry about that. So, well, all right. I'm gonna stop apologizing for something I can't control. I really can't. It'll just end. This is crazy. So, it's been a long time, folks. You should considering buying School of Airs as well. It's very good, instructive, informative one. Here's School of Airs. This will be available also in paperback for $22 in summer. Although I think the hard copy for $8 is worth it. But an audiobook, you'll hear me narrate it without hiccups. That will be out on Findaway Voices, but also linked out on Amazon and places that sell audiobooks. This is crazy. I'm sorry. I don't know how it sounds to listen to me hiccup, but I'm sorry. Wow. Yeah. All right. Salted Surfer. I know, buddy. I don't feel indigestion. I think what happened is I've been doing these final exams. So students in my class, and it throws off my eating. Normal times that I would eat, like get thrown off, and I think that might have been a mix here, but I don't know. This is absolutely nuts. As I said, I need like a ghost to show up behind me. Bah! Scare me. So, no. It's been once in a while I get hiccups. I don't know. I think it's because I kind of screwed up my supper pattern. So, all right. So anyway, the thing with the wet bulb. So again, this whole wet bulb is that we opt in to get these push alerts on our phone, right? We opt in for this information, these emergency alerts. But we could also opt out, but we don't because we fear of missing out. So we keep opting in. And the thing is, like this information just comes to us nonstop, and it gets amplified. So that's the whole wet bulb effect, is that you can never escape the saturation of information. So, and the fact is, right now, we bring it on ourselves. There will be a point, though, when we have to ask, when will it be voluntary? So, all right, hang on just a second. Another swig of water. All right, there we go. I don't know if that'll help. This is one of the times when living in a haunted house would really be a big plus. Although I'd probably be used to it, so it wouldn't freak me out. So the wet bulb effect, right? Wet bulb effect is when people do not exit from this situation where they are constantly informed of negative information, which is like the pandemic stuff, right? Or inflation, or what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, right? So they always carry their phones with them. This is all they talk about with their friends. This is all they get on the newspaper, right? This is all they search for on the internet. So it's this negative vicarious rehearsal. And then you lose perspective. And that starts to really wear you down fast. It's like it's like a pair of jeans in a dryer that's filled with rocks, right? You know how they used to like, stone wash these things? Like that's what you are. You're surrounding yourself with all this abrasive stuff, which is going to wear you down very rapidly. So, my friend Aaron Clary, right? Like what Aaron will do is he'll be like, hey, I'm out hiking today. You guys, if you follow him on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, he'll be like, I'm out here hiking, I'm golfing. Like I don't have my phone on. I don't know what's happening. Although he takes pictures of himself, I'm assuming he has some sort of connection with the outside world. But so he'll get home and say, like, well, what happened today? But there is a part of that you have to do to survive this wet bulb effect. Like you have to exit from it, whether it's a hike or you just don't tune into social media, or like you just extract yourself for a couple days, because the world will go on without you, right? And if there's something very particular to you, like people will get a hold of you, but otherwise, like get out of this network. Like you're just sucked into it. So it's hiking, it's golfing, it's taking a ride, a bike, whatever it is. But the latest hype news, like get out of it, because it's just meant to suck you in. And it can turn you very quickly into a very where you seek negative information, which is called negative vicarious rehearsal. I'll do a show sometime on that. I wrote about it in the Philosophy of Information. And it also predisposes you to negative information, meaning that you think the next information you're going to get is going to be bad. So you're just expecting bad news. So you kind of get in this mode. So just get out of it. Like that's one thing is I hate the nightly news. David Muir coming on tonight, breaking news. Like we have these important stories. I'm like, dude, come on, give it a break. And that's every single night, right? I used to actually to record the nightly news, ABC with David Muir, and I used to write down how many seconds he would commit to everything he was talking to. And you could get to see very clearly it was just this whole drama thing to draw you in, right? And I remember one of the craziest things too of like after the fire of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, right? Where a couple days later, he's there, David Muir, and he's like wiping his fingers across like ash covered whatever. And he's, and I'm like, dude, like there's so much lead in what you just put your hands into. And I don't think, they were covered with anything. I'm like, it's just stupid, right? For you to be here, it's all drama. Like, it's all drama. You're just drama. Like, I'm a scientist. Like I have 471 endnotes. You are a professional actor in front of a screen reading a teleprompter. And yes, you can go different places and, stuff like that. But dude, but that's where I'm like, I got rid of that. And it was funny because when I was in college, my one roommate, Nate, already picked up on that, like at the age of 20, he's like, I just hate the news. It's just like all propaganda. I never really picked up on it until later. But so again, mitigating the wet bulb effect is saying, I'm just not going to tune into this stuff. Like, I'm not going to go to these websites. I'm not going to listen to the news. I'm not going to, and you're going to be fine. I mean, you can periodically sample and kind of like calibrate where things are at, like every few days. But Aaron Clary really has it down. But there are people, and many of us probably, who feel we have to know what's happening, or we just have our phones set to that, where it's feeding us that nonstop loop. I wrote about in the Philosophy of Information toward the end. I wrote, we've really been robbed of the sense of excitement and surprise. Meaning like we're not surprised as much anymore as individuals because the information is already, it's streaming to us nonstop. So if somebody wants to surprise you with some information, you've probably already received it. It's just part of your regular stream. And there's some loss in that. Really, there is some loss. And again, this whole wet bulb effect of when you surround yourself with this negative information, this negative vicarious rehearsal, it is a sandpaper. It wears you down very quickly. And then it also, you just expect the sandpaper. You expect that it's going to be bad news. So there's a fascinating chapter in the book about the wet bulb effect, and pay attention to that. And also just, you can extract yourself from it. You can just say, I'm not going to tune into these things. I'm going to go 3 days without watching the news or reading the newspaper or the headlines. And Your world will be just fine. Trust me, you'll be just fine unless you get the hiccups like I did, but you'll be just fine. Just do that. And the other thing with what bulb effect is, you'll see, and I wrote about this in the book, people pass headlines. They don't try to verify headlines, they just pass them. So the more horrific, the more downtrodden the news, they want to get that to you as soon as possible without any attempt to verify that themselves, right? They just want to pass it to you so you can share in the same kind of shock, although they've already been numb somewhat, but it still is this degrading effect on their psychological state. They want to pass that on to you, right? So, you know, I put here, there's no use in hovering at the buffet table waiting for another pan of wings to be dumped into the trough. So just stop, like get away. Like if you left for a week and didn't have any contact with the outside world or media, I mean, or if you chose to do this, you'd be fine. Like there's nothing that's going to happen where you're going to be like, oh God, I wish I would have known this or whatever. You'd be fine. So I think it's this whole thing of like how frequently we sample the outside information. But the thing is, like all of our apps are designed by these engineers who, I don't have the hiccups anymore, which is good. They're designed by these engineers. Remember like video game engineers? I talked to one of them, and there was, their whole thing was to get you hooked on the video game, especially if it's a subscription video game. So like you'd have a dragon and you'd have some like whole world where your dragon would be, and it'd be like, hey, like Billy, you haven't logged in today. Like your dragon is suffering. Your dragon is sad. And Billy'd be like, Jesus, I got stuff I got to do. I can't log into this and fight like this battle or whatever. So, but then like it would pop up and say, hey, like for $2, like, a peasant will feed your dragon. Your dragon will be okay till tomorrow. You'd be like, well, I guess I'll pay the $2. So it's this whole like conditioning, like this is so well done. And people are just used to subscribing right to the media and just like getting all this stuff, getting all these alerts or these Facebook alerts or Instagram or whatever, these alerts. It's insane. But anyway, wet bulb effect. You have the ability to tune out and not subscribe to this stuff. When it seems overwhelming and all the news is negative, just like piss off. Piss off. There's an interesting like GIF about that. Where it's a fireworks and it's piss off, but no, really, like just piss off, right? Like it's, like don't try to bring your negative stuff onto. You're inviting it. That's the thing. Like you're inviting it. You're allowing it to come in, and it's just coming through your phone. It's what people talk to you about. It's just like piss off. You really need to sample things maybe once every 3 days, or you could probably get to once every 6 days. If you have a good member check, like they'll look out for you. But there are times you just need to be like, I don't care. Stock market went down 400 points. I don't care. Nothing I can do about it. I don't care. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to do my things. I'm going to keep my long-term goals. I don't care. That's not what the media wants. Like David Muir wants you to tune in every night because, we have something breaking. Like it's always the same thing. Like when it starts with him, right? Something, this is happening and whatever. And I'm like, dude, come on. So like I'm 100 times the researcher you are. I don't know about a journalist, if I'm technically a journalist, but I mean, come on. But, trying to keep it's Ting Ting. Ting Ting, you should review my book. Right? You absolutely should. Sinclair in overdrive is an overdrive. No kidding. Every weather report lately has been about an incoming storm days away. Us the next worst ever possible storm possible. Sensational. Vanessa's got it. Vanessa's awesome, by the way. Vanessa's got it though, right? Like every weather, like this is going to be the worst storm ever, or this is going to be this, and it's like, geez, like it's just not. Like just be authentic and realistic. But why they say this, right, is because they want you to tune in, and they're trying to hype. But I remember. So Vanessa, this is a funny story. I remember when our oldest daughter, who's 16, she was like 1 or 2, and we were staying up north on a vacation, and there was a severe storm that came through, and it was okay, but it was a severe storm. And then like the Weather Channel that this was reported, this is a northern Wisconsin channel. They're like, we're following this with our like news crew. It's like, 15 years ago. And they're like, follow it to the next county, and they like break in, like, they'd be like 100 miles away. It's past us, but they were not going to let the storm rest. They were going to track this thing until it died. But it's like, okay. Ting Ting is saying, Ting Ting, you need to leave a review for the book. Please email me. You can find my email contact information at this address, safetyphd.com. Just email me if you do not have a copy of the book. Please, you can go into about the safety doc. I think you can find a way to email me there, but I can only listen to enough news before I go downstairs and start working on my kid. Yeah, that's the thing. Like people, there is this wet bulb effect, which is happening right now, and it's especially happening with negative information. It's happened in the last 2 years. And it's burning people out. I wrote about it in the Velocity of Information. It's a chapter. It's called the wet bulb effect. And then there's also a chapter on negative vicarious rehearsal. Negative vicarious rehearsal means you are anticipating that something will happen to you, that the chances of happening it to you are very unlikely. So the example I gave was there was a family in a rural community, I don't know, Georgia, Alabama, whatever, like literally like 200 people in the community, but they were watching the news and they were seeing riots on TV in 2020 and stuff like that. So they went out and bought supplies, bought weapons and all this stuff because they anticipated it was going to come to their town. And it never did, right? This was negative vicarious rehearsal. But the news would make it feel like if you lived in wherever you were at, it didn't matter that you were going to have rioters come to your town and loot all of your stores and all of that. So these people were terrified, right? So this was negative vicarious rehearsal. So which we'll get into in another show, but it really messed with a lot of people. So it happened here where I was at. We live an hour away from an area that did have violence and looting, and the stores in my area, the major stores, fortified their entrances. Like they put barricades up in front of them and stuff like that, thinking, well, people could drive an hour up the interstate to get to us, which is logical, but it wasn't. It was a wet bulb effect. So Vanessa is saying, if you own the router, ensure it has its updates installed as well as from Router Maker. So I have to really pay attention here to my technology in the next month or 2 or 3. But by the end of summer, like I need to significantly update my tech. So, which is all fully doable. So I didn't do it last year because I was consulting so much. And a lot of my clients are on the West Coast. They're in California. So I have a laptop, which is very robust and things like that. It's not like this. I have like 3 monitors in front of me, 3 large monitors. I have like 6 feet of monitors in front of me. So like for this system to go down and to kind of run some of the stuff I was running last year off of the laptop just wasn't realistic. So, but I do need to darken this system and go in and have my desktop rebuilt. So Jim is saying that's fixed. Apparently the router was clogged up with crap in the persistent memory. Yeah. My router also has like a place you can put a thumb drive on the back and save things to the router. I've never done that. I don't know if that's ever that's a good idea to do. I don't know if what I would access to something I saved to my routers. So it's kind of one of those mystery things. It's like, I don't know if I should do this or not. So I haven't done it so far. Google Drive. Like if I have usually Google Drive is only where I store documents I use for my university instruction. I don't store anything else there. I mean, some book stuff there, like if I have to access it quickly, like some book reviews or some things like that, if I can like tweet them out, I can quickly go to Drive. But usually I don't put stuff out there. It's our good friend Bacon Maldito from Inglewood, California. Heard you write books. Got a new one out recently. Asked for a friend. Bacon, I'm telling you right here. Bacon, what you need to do is go to the Inglewood Library and you just need to say, like, Velocity of Information. Buy this book by the Safety Docs. So it's an awesome book. It's really good. School of Errors was awesome. It's a niche book. It's a genre book. there's something in there for everybody. Plus these 10 interviews. Like I said, I interviewed people who don't give interviews. I interviewed people who, you have to give them a list of questions ahead of time and kind of build this rapport and like over months. I mean, so you're not going to find these people interviewed in other books. Like they just don't give interviews, but they're fascinating people. Nikolai Razavayu, Larry Lawton, America's biggest jewel thief, 1.5 million YouTube followers. And he is a character in Grand Theft Auto. So, video game. So yeah, I mean, it's an awesome book. I went through it several times, like, copy editors, citation editor. There's no mistakes in the book. Like, you're not going to read this and say, oh God, there's spelling errors or graphics are upside down or something like that. It's just not. It's really well done. You're going to love it. It's going to, I write it as if we're all around a fireside chat. And I'm talking to you in a scholarly and intellectual manner. And all of you are smart, like Vanessa, Bacon, Ting, Jim. You guys are all intellectual, right? So we're having this intellectual discussion around a fireside chat. That's what the book is. And you're going to appreciate that. And I think, and honestly, if you can leave reviews for the book, if you don't have access to the book, please email me, Jim McIntosh, Ting, whatever, and Bacon, we'll fix that. Reviews are the number one things that move the books, that sell books to get them out there. So it is rapidly showing up in libraries and things like that. But I believe this book should be considered for awards, like choice awards and so on. I just think it's an outstanding book. It's the best work I've ever done in my life. And like I said, there's really this strong international interest in the book, which is surprised me. Not in the fact that I knew the book was really well done. It's really, like I said, it's a crisp read because I took like what could have been a 300-page book and I got it down to 208 pages. Like I worked really, really, really hard. So like when you get into it, like there's no warm up in the book. Like you're right there and it's very crisp and you're going to be into it right away. And everything has meaning, which is the way that a book should be. Like you should put that amount of effort into not consuming your readers in superfluous information. Like it's right there for you. But I'm excited about it. Like it was picked up by Broadway News, Broadway News is significant. It has like 15 million unique followers or accessors a month. They did an authentic article on it today. So it's a big thing. It's about new entertainment and things like that. So it got brought into that. I was notified today of that. So it's just really good. It's just really good stuff. And again, if you take the time, Jim, Ting, Bacon, Vanessa, take the time of 5 minutes to find your local library and their email address and email them and say, here's the book, here's the author. Usually they'll ask for ISBN number, which you can find easily, but, and say, this is a great book. I want this in our library. I live here. Like this is the library I go to and I'm a patron. 9 times out of 10, the library will buy it. So that is a very high correlation. If you're a patron of that library and you recommend it, libraries want to know that. They're like, what do our patrons want? They'll buy the book. So, it literally will take you 5 minutes of your time to find that library, say, here's the book. It's outstanding. 10 interviews, human condition during chaos. Please buy it. I live here. I will check out this book. And most times they're like, yes, thank you so much. So let's go on. Safety PH. Did I write that? Yes, I did. I don't know. So it's my website. So let's see. Ting, us awesome. We're going to have a mammoth build part when I get to Fort Worth. Okay. It's Vanessa. So actually, this is Heath. The weather is changing rapidly with magnetic field diminishing, solar maximizing starting. So, yikes. Thanks, Heath. I turned it off. This is Vanessa and work on leather and woodworking projects, etc. There's a limit to permanent saturation. There is. Vanessa, you're right on. There's a limit to how much you can take in of information. especially if it's negative, before it just like overflows, right? You think of saturation levels, this wet bulb effect is a sponge that is saturated, and then if you put any more water in, it just rolls over the top of it. That happens. And we have to know where that is, and just it doesn't do you any good as a person, as a parent, as a friend, whatever, when you're the saturation effect, right? And you just do other things like Vanessa said, leather or woodworking projects or whatever. Like I worked in my furnace room. I put in new lighting in there, which makes it look awesome and much larger, by the way. It was interesting because my youngest daughter, after I showed her like what I had done, she's like, "This room looks a lot bigger." I'm like, "Yeah, because like the fire side of it was never really lit, and now it's all lit up. It looks like just much bigger." But yeah, you're right on. John, I want to build guns. Sounds great to me. So yeah, go for it, buddy. Toy Town, next COVID strain will be worse yet. 6 months, 2 shots, and tire rotation. Oh god, it's funny. I'm one of those people who always rotates their tires. My godfather, who is an awesome guy, worked in the tire business. He was in the military and worked tire business. Said rotating your tires is like the best thing you can do. Like you get so much life out of tires just by rotating them. But yeah, and now we're hearing this thing of what, like, new mask restraints or regulations coming back into effect and whatever. So it's like, oh my God. So that's where the book, The Velocity of Information, Velocity of Information, Human Thinking During Chaotic Times, is really going to help you. Like, right. Or it's going to, you might already know a lot of what's in this book, although like I don't think you will, because I had to find, like the propaganda during World War I, World War II, and other interviews, and just break down a lot of things. But what you will find in this book is you will be able to help people around you who start to fall and falter, right? And languish. You'll be able to help transition them through and move them through time instead of this whirlpool effect where they're not moving. You'll be able to do that. And the book will give you the terminology. Like I have the 12 steps in there, 12 things you can do, 12 activities to move people through languishing during chaotic times. And it's all research back. Like I'll say, like in this part of the book, we already talked about this, or this part of the book. It's not just me willy-nilly putting this out there. It's really good. It's research based, and this should be taught. But the book is something where, and I think you're going to get, you'll see some reflection of some other times of really intense struggles. So, but anyway, it's an awesome book. Searching for a brown and sharp milling machine. My dad used to have one for decades. It's Vanessa. If you don't use zero wood oil, you could get syphilis. Toy Town encounter. I just had an oil change in our newest vehicle, and that was zero weight. So zero weight Mobile One, buddy. I will do computer upgrade. Yeah, I need to do. So we have a computer place in town, and the guy's been doing it for like 5 years. Really good. He's like upgrade my laptop. But when I take the desktop CPU unit in, right, like the whole system here shuts down for as long as he has it. So I need to really get a plan for that. And obviously when it comes back, it's going to have Windows 10 or 11 and kind of get ready for that. But it needs to happen. I need to do some component upgrades and then also a system update. Thankfully, like all the modern stuff, and like I said, I've got a CD drive and DVD, which is really cool, and I have like all the card reader stuff. So everything there's functional. It's just some of the guts need to be mechanically changed out, plus the operating system. 5 weights. Yeah, I run my one vehicle runs 5 weights, the other runs 0 weight. But Jim is saying to Toy Town, order extra fear porn and get Ginsu knives, a bamboo and steamer, and pocket fishman. Yeah, I remember the pocket fishman. You're right. So that's the thing, is we can choose to what we subscribe to, at least now. Later in my book, I kind of hint at this point of subscription to the bad news. There's a point when this is going to be not opt-in, right? Meaning that if there's this whole neural link under, Elon Musk, or if we have like a digital currency or stuff, and you have to, there will be points where this whole opt-in thing will start to erode, which will be catastrophic. It's bad. But for now, you have a lot of influence over your opt-in. And people love to opt in because they love this stuff, right? That's why, David Muir and ABC News does the headlines they do, the first, 10 seconds of the broadcast and stuff like that. But I'm saying just get out of this, like Aaron Clary, get out and golf or hike or do other things. Or just, I don't watch the news except for that stuff. When I'm watching the news, I objectively am measuring the news. I'm measuring how many seconds are on a certain topic and stuff like that, and kind of distilling that out as for scientific research that I'm doing. But I don't feel informed. I don't feel like David Muir has some special knowledge that I don't have or don't have access to. My friends are some of the best intelligence experts in the entire world. I mean, so like, but anyway, Vanessa Kit Ting is saying, I have one last AK parts kit I'll be building with my children. I have several P8s. Gotcha. Good friend Bacon Maldito. I've had worse weeks. Can't wait to see if I make it to Friday without ending up on the news. So, yeah. It's kind of interesting because even though I've had all of this, the press releases come out for the book and stuff, like one of the biggest things that shows up right now is like, hey, like Doc lost the election for city council. I'm like, come on, give me a break. So it's our good friend Cameron Sanchez. Cameron, if you have not read the book, The Velocity of Information, please do so or contact me and we'll help you out here. But this thing needs to get a lot of reviews on Amazon. The Velocity of Information, it released last week. The official technical Associated Press release was today. So that's where I got a report, actually, like a very detailed report of all the newspapers that ran it today and all the media sites and stuff like that. So it's very elaborate, when it comes out on a press release. So all the places it's shown up, which is really cool. And then they're like, it's really like 3 days out when you kind of get the whole influx of where it's been saturated out. But anyway, it's really good. Vanessa saying my router has the Plex server system on board. A thumb drive is its mini drive to access the Plex server. So yeah, I haven't done anything with the thumb drive option. I don't know. I just don't think I would store anything to my server. But so this is Vanessa. Hi, Bacon. Yeah, we shall bust out. I'll be getting. Got it. Vanessa saying, yep, that's one reason I fled Washington State. So I am thinking if I were to move, I would do Georgia, particularly northern Georgia or northern panhandle of Florida, like Valparaiso or St. Joe's, or Texas, like more in the New Braunfels area. Those would be kind of my preferences. So now with that said, I would move to any of those in a day if possible. Like where I'm at is kind of a unique situation because we have realtors who approach us on a regular basis saying, we will give you X amount of dollars for your house. Here's what it would be. We'll just pay you. And because we live again close to the Madison Metro, which is expanding. And I'd be like, yeah, that sounds good. But my wife and kids aren't on board with that. So it's not just me involved in the decision making, but it's kind of a weird situation when you do have realtors come by and say, like, we'll write you out a check tomorrow in this amount, and you'll have 60 days to, vacate your house. And I'm like, whoa. So I'm like, this amount versus like what it would cost me to live somewhere else is pretty equal. But I don't have a consensus here in the household to do that. But it is really the tactics and stuff are really increasing here, like the frequency and then the follow-up phone calls and stuff like and the notes on the doors and stuff like that of so like I said, if it was just me, I'd be out of here. I'd be like, you got it, write me the check, I'm gone. So all mine UPRS is as the serial numbers. So is our good friend John Rice. Doc, I have 5 libraries near me at 5 surrounding towns. I'm informed. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Vanessa. I do. And it's amazing how effective that is. That is, like I said, I would say 80 to 90% of libraries, if you make a recommendation to them and you live in the area of a book, they'll buy it because they're always asking for that. Like they have money and if you live in the area and you're like, here's why, here's why, you don't have to write a whole big compelling story. It's like a lot of interviews. It's about chaos. It's just released. It's got the last couple of years. I've read parts of it. It's really good. They'll be like, boom, we'll add it. So appreciate that. Yes, I think the last straw syndrome in troubled times when we snap as humans from the Berlin ad, the surrounding environments get consumed. Yeah, Vanessa, you got it. Ting Ting, I need to relearn leather skills again. Been a while. So, got it. Jim McIntosh thing will not comply. So, no kidding, buddy. I did shopping today. I wish I would have got some more white vinegar. I didn't. That is a great disinfectant, just a great cleaner. So, somehow it was not on my list. I think I got everything on my list, the working on leather cases. So very cool. Vanessa, my goal is 3-week remote secure storage facilities within this country to build whatever. Yeah. By the way, this is not financial advice, but the 20-year Treasury note today is 3.02%, which is the highest it's been since 2018. If you buy a Treasury note from the U.S. government, it does pay interest twice a month. You go to treasurydirect.gov, you set up a website, and it link it to your bank account. But that's something to be very aware of, though, right? As inflation goes up, stock market's going to go down. I just do not feel secure at all in the stock market for the short term or long term. And I mean, if this rate for this 20-year note goes up to 4 or 5%, and you don't have to pay state taxes, you only pay federal. I mean, wow, that is something to consider because we haven't been in that range for several years, and it's rapidly increasing. So just for those of you out there with your finances and whatever, the 30 or the 20-year federal Treasury note is at 3.02%, which is the highest it's been since 2018. I think it's going to go higher. I would guess 4 or 5% by the fall. You have a 5% government Treasury, which pays you twice a month for 20 years at 5%. That is a hell of a return. It really is, with minimal risk, because you're right. If that defaults, then every bank in the U.S. is gone. Like stock market's lost half its values. So I'm just saying it's something to be very aware of. My goal is, it's Vanessa. I think we got to that one. This is our good friend Sass One Too Many. He's an Isuzu enthusiast, Imprezas, I think, but always bring my Honda to a Toyota dealer for an oil change, like to keep them guessing. No kidding, right? Just had an oil change on our new vehicle. It's our very first oil change on it, so it's been going well. So I saw a scratch on the door today, but that's going to happen with vehicles. Thankfully, it's black. Like I think if you buy a black or a white vehicle, I have a black and a white vehicle. Prefer to have two black vehicles. I think black is very easy to touch up. So, ting ting. When I had to explain to my boyfriend that engines use oil filters, almost cracked me up. Oh my God, it's crazy. Bacon is saying success. I take all my two-stroke vehicles to a local BMW shop. Never some maintenance. No kidding. Yeah, I always make sure everything is well maintained. So, had the self-propel go out on my lawnmower, so that's in the shop right now. I tuned in before when Doc was having some issues. Thought I was having strokes, so laid down for a bit. I said, no, I'm good. Hiccups is strange. I rarely get hiccups, so. Sass One Too Many also has done the cannonball run at 178 miles an hour sustained. So congratulations to our good friend Sass One Too Many, who now lives in a warmer climate. When I got my last, this is Jim McIntosh. When I got my last car, I changed the oil filter several times until the oil wasn't turning immediately black. Neglected, suspected. Got it. Yeah, I try to do frequent oil changes. We don't put on a lot of miles, but I mean, it's paid off. Like we've had very low maintenance on vehicles and no engine issues. So yeah, this was an interesting part. I remember with our dealer. So I bought the last two vehicles new from our dealer, and he said one of the things, or like the sales rep I bought from, and he said one of the things really is like people just don't change their oil. Like we'll get a vehicle in, 15, 20,000 miles for a trade or whatever. And it'd be like, so what's the service records? And it'd be like, there's no oil change. So it's gone 15 or 20,000 miles and it doesn't have an oil change. And that also like voids your warranty, right, on the 36,000 miles or whatever it is. if you go on 15,000 miles without an oil change, but people just don't do it. They said you'd be amazed, like the people who just simply do not change their oil. So that became one big reason for me to buy new and hold the vehicle for a long time. Is I knew how it would be treated. I knew it would be garaged and an oil change and stuff like that, because I'm like, you could get a vehicle with 10,000 miles that's never had an oil change, it's been beaten pretty hard, and then you're dealing with that for the rest of its existence. So it's crazy. All right, well, everybody stay here, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. All right, this is our intermission. Enjoy it. Here we go.
Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack.
Hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. That was from our good friend Swamp Dog Armory, who produced that for me. So I appreciate that. So, Solitude is saying Doc has. I know that's a typo. Sorry, buddy. Bet on PBS twice for specials. Ficken A. Yes, exactly. Swamped us. Nice. He's a good guy. He's a really good guy. I pissed my pants presenting. Yeah, it's not that bad. Presenting live TV isn't that big of a deal. I mean, it's a big deal, but I would say I was more. I'm not saying I know I was more anxious when I presented or start to narrate my book, School of Errors, in a studio where, like the engineers said, well, if you make a mistake, we can just edit it out. That was much more intimidating than presenting before a live studio audience, and so that never bothered me. But the only thing is, you have to get the timing down when you present on PBS, and I'll do a show on that sometime because I want to talk about that whole experience because of what it's like from a presenter standpoint. It's all about timing, because it has to come in at an hour, and they can do some things to edit it. Like my first show was over an hour, so that didn't get syndicated as much. And the second show was an hour. So it's easy syndication for Jacksonville and Houston and like all these places to put it in. But it is in real time when you're delivering this, like you practice so many times, but then you get all these color coded signals and stuff coming to you on the monitor and people in the audience. I mean, to get it to the exact within literally like present and you end within like 5 seconds of where you're supposed to end for an hour show. Like there's really an art to that. And I hit it the second time, which was really cool. So both presentations were good, but the first one, because it's an hour and 20 minutes, it's very difficult to syndicate. Doc has done really cool things. Thank you, Saltude. Appreciate that. So I've done things which like I don't know anybody else has done, right? Not to try to toot my own horn, stuff like that, but I don't know anybody who's been on PBS twice for specials, right? Like it's a lot of work with that. And I don't know anyone who's written 2 nonfiction books under contract, but yeah, Piccolo and a King, that's the song. You got it. Even thinking about doing a live stream makes me want to be, oh my goodness, ting ting. So yeah, but I love the live streams. I really do. When you gear up for a PBS presentation, for example, first of all, it's like 6 months in advance that you're preparing, and then your stuff has to be approved, and there's so many steps to that. But you get there hours ahead of time. You do a complete dry run of the presentation to a non-studio audience where they're checking camera settings, all of that. You're checking all your stuff, your content. And then when people do start to filter in and, they're telling people what to do and what to do during a live show and what not to do. And then, you have specific places you have to stand. You have monitors in front of you that only you see, that no one else sees. Like you're getting feedback from the booth and stuff like that. But it is really interesting. Like I love both my presentations. They were awesome. But it is quite an experience to go live and know that you're presenting to the entire country, right? And there's like a 3-second delay, right? So, but it is amazing to do that, and I live for that stuff, and I love it, and I would actually like to go back a third time and present. But it is really something. And then people afterwards, the audience will dissipate to some extent, and then people stay and they ask you questions. So that never gets on TV, but it's a couple of hours where people stay and they ask you questions, right? So you're answering these from the stage. And then afterwards in 2019, when I got done, people followed me and they said, hey, would you like to go downtown to like a bar and like a pub, right? Serve like food and beer and drink, stuff like that. I said, sure. So I went, and then, I was hanging around with like 25 people till like 2-3 in the morning. And they like wanted to hang around with the person that just presented on national television, right? They were asking me questions, stuff like that. And I think I told the story, like I couldn't find my car afterwards. And it's not because I was drunk, because I wasn't at all. I was very responsible, but I wasn't used to the area, right? And I got there during the day, and I had to park in a parking ramp that was a little ways away. And I think I took a picture of it, but I'm like, it was nighttime. And I think it was also raining. So I'm like, I'd been moved to so many different places in this. I had no idea where I really was. So I'm like, I don't know where my vehicle is. So then like maybe like 5 people stayed with me, and they're like, we will help you find your vehicle. And eventually we found it. Like, here's the image, and they're like, we think it's here. And then, they walked down and I saw the vehicle. I'm like, there it is. This big party, we celebrated the high fives. We found the vehicle. I got out of there, but like 3 in the morning, I was really tired. But it was really cool. Like, it was, and we would go place to place, and they would introduce me as like, this person was just on national television like 2 hours ago. So it was like one of the best things of my life. I mean, it was really just great. Like the first time was really good. The second time was much better though, because I kind of knew what to expect, and then like I just had this audience following where I didn't really have that the first time. The second time was this whole audience that just like wanted to hang out. So I don't know. It was just cool. I'll do a show on that sometime, and I'll write out like, we'll talk about like what it's like to first like make this contact with PBS about maybe doing a show, and then like how to prepare it, which took months. And then you have to get things approved. Like I had to get things approved by the Department of Defense that I showed in the second show. And then like what it's like to get there. And like things you never do when you're on PBS. So like I will watch PBS presentations and I'll be like, that person just made a big mistake. And one is like, you never look over your left shoulder on PBS. Like you're never supposed to be like you're looking at a screen, right? Even though the audience has a screen of things you're presenting, right? That's all so the cameras are on you and they will cut things in and out, but you're never supposed to point to the actual screen that the audience is seeing. So I got that down really fast, but I can see other people make that mistake, like big time people. Like, so I'll be like, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. So like they'll edit away or they'll edit some still clip in, but I'm like, there's a mistake they made. And then like I said, the second time I got to it, like I knew it, like you kind of knew what to expect, and I had the timing down and everything. And so that one really roared. Like that was just a, like I said, both presentations were really good, but it's kind of funny because like I said, people recognize me from the PBS presentation, especially my area. Like it shows enough around here, but like people, and that's where the book has a lot of good cross SEO if you type in my name right now in a Google search, you'll find the PBS presentations that I've done, like in Jacksonville or Reno, like where they've been put into recent programs, stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. So anyway, not to toot my horn, but it is a really cool thing. Like I never thought I'd present on PBS. I never thought I'd repeat presenting on PBS and like the 2 books and things like that. So I had I had a fun time. Like I had a great time hanging out with people afterwards, and so no countrywide stuff for me, but tons of large auditorium teaching, etc. It's from Vanessa. So yeah. Ben on cheap beer because lack of money. Jeez, like inflation is just nuts. I think inflation, didn't the White House kind of today say like, hey, we're going to give new inflation numbers and they're going to be not what you're expecting, meaning like higher. But I mean, you get out there and I 11, 15% inflation. That's just going to be nuts. Ice House. No, I remember when I was in college, we used to do Milwaukee's Best. You could get a case of that for like $3 or something. It's just so. It's a horrible, effective beer at what it needed to do. Vanessa saying Guinness Foreign Extra Stout. I do like stout beers, by the way, like heavy stout. Always on cellar taps with the Dragon's Milk. Kind of to a dark beer. You are a dark beer guy. Yes, I am. That's kind of my thing. Hang in the chats with me then. All right. I don't like IPAs. So, all right. Before we continue, 2 things. This is my new book, which released last week. Please consider either purchasing this in paperback, which is a very good paperback form. It's too far for me to reach, but this is really, really well done. You're going to value this. Like this will have an impact on you. And please consider emailing your local library and saying, hey, I live here. Like this should be in our library. This is 471 endnotes, 10 interviews. It's very well done. People would benefit from reading this book versus, the 7th edition of Pippi Longstocking or whatever that is, whatever, or, a new Encyclopedia Brown or something like that. Like this is the scholarly work that everybody will love. I mean, or stories in here about the America's biggest jewel thief, right? So I mean, there's really cool stuff. If you're a history person, like World War II stuff, and there's just awesome stuff in here. So do me that favor. The other part is, if you haven't already purchased this book, consider it. School of Errors, Rethinking School Safety. It's more than school safety. There's half this book is devoted. This book was originally titled Lessons of Lower Manhattan. Half of this book is about the rescue of 500,000 people in 9 hours from Lower Manhattan on 9/11. This is a phenomenal book. Vanessa can attest to that. $30. If you wait till July 15th, it'll be out there, 22 in paperback. But this is a really, really good book. Again, written in first person, me talking to you. So yeah, there's much. And if you're a parent, right, or if you're an educator, you know somebody, who's a parent with their kids in school, read this book, get an understanding of how social proof works, right, in schools, and how some of the crazy purchases happen. Chapter 28, bollards and planters, is one of my favorite chapters in here when I wrote that one. So it's really well done. So, kind of both of those flavors. Taurus, talking about similarity, normalcy, bias. That's represented strongly in both books. I think it's one of those things, like, you read both books, you're a better person for reading both those books. And you will have a dialogue with people in a different way that you've had before. It'll change your lenses as you look at things also. You'll have that. But it's this whole easement into discussions that you wouldn't have had before. Not that you're not smart people like Jim, Vanessa, Bacon, you guys are. But like because I've worked in a school setting for 25 years, right, and all stuff, like, I put it together in a way that gives you an easement. And you're all taxpayers. Like, all you're putting your hard-earned money into this is, at least you kind of know the other side of it that I reveal. But I truly believe that both of these books are something that when you discuss them with other people, it adds value to them. You're adding value to them, and they then share that and add value to others. So, and they're really interesting. They're really interesting books. So, so let's see. Vanessa saying, yeah, Jim, I tried a black cherry hard cider. I had high hopes for it, but on tasting, it came out right back out. So I don't know. Unfortunate. So I am more of a vodka and cranberry juice person myself. It's kind of where I'm at right now. But we are 2 months away. I don't know, somewhere in there where we usually take a family vacation. So I say it because the place we go has like a lot of distilleries and like little home breweries and stuff like that. So, which is nice because like where we stay, we can walk to all these places. So, Bacon Ting Ting is saying, Ting Ting, by the way, like, seriously, like, contact me if you want to be a part of reviewing the velocity of information. It's here at safetyphd.com. Go in there. There are ways you can find out how to contact me. So, not Safety P. Sorry, I'm typing underneath my microphone. So, sorry about that. It's disheartening. I could technically block that user, but that's myself. Potato vodka. Wow. Jim McIntosh. Oh, I don't drink much soda anymore, but I want a sugary treat. I like the Faygo black cherry soda pop. Yeah, I don't do much for sugar anymore, and I'm kind of realizing I'm not taking enough fat in my diet. It's taking a little more fat, especially like when I start biking. I run a pretty lean diet, and so I need to do kind of more fat in my diet. But whatever, for me. Pitcher Doc is more of a bourbon guy. No, okay, yeah, I don't know. I'm a Long Island iced tea. My God, I could Long Island iced tea till the sun sets and rises. But otherwise, it's really a vodka and cranberry. It used to be a rum and Coke, like a Sailor Jerry's, but then it just got too sweet, man. I just couldn't, it just, I don't know, just too sweet and turned me off. So, but for years, that was kind of the thing, like a rum and Coke, the Sailor Jerry's and Coke, but just not into the sweet stuff anymore. It's our good friend Bull Rush. Love, lower that A1C, you fatties. So, wow. Kind of a out of the gate strong statement there from Bull Rush. But yeah, I think one of the things I know when I bike and some of the other things is I don't have enough fat in my diet, actually. So I need to kind of superimpose that over into my diet. So guess me's a Scotch guy. I'm open to anything. Whiskey, Scotch, just bring on it over. So appreciate it. Sass, cranberry seltzer, Edgin. I'm with you. So I've had cranberry and vodka and cranberry is kind of my go-to. I like it. So, yeah, I don't know. Rum has gotten just too sweet for me. Maybe it's just getting older. Like, I don't know if that's a thing, but like, it's just too sweet. I'm like, I'm just not a rum guy anymore. Ting ting, that's all right. No one's English is perfect. It's the message being conveyed, not just the way it is. Got it, Bacon. Good vodka tastes like potatoes. This is true. So, no kidding. Let's go back to my notes here. Let me show you actually my notes so you don't think I'm just winging this. This will be a blog post tomorrow. Tomorrow's a pretty crazy day. I have like 6 final exams tomorrow. Not that I have to take, that I have to give. So here's my notes, by the way. There are the show notes. So let's make those a little bigger. So see, like these will all be a blog post. I have that already roughed out. There's the keywords, tag words. So, all right, let's get out of, well, let's stay in this. Wet ball effect. Okay, so we already talked about this. Phone buzzes. Okay, wet ball effect right here. Okay, so I'm looking left because I have a monitor on my left where it's larger, but begin by acknowledging your behaviors. Short-tempered, frustrated, overwhelmed, unable to attend a task. These are reactions to stimuli. Change the channel, or better yet, turn off the receiver. The information is still hammering down on you. If you've turned off your receiver, mistake here, okay. Da-da-da. Your attention shifts to the hike or the golf game. Remember Aaron Clare, a good friend who hikes and golfs, doesn't check in on the news. And you seemingly be the last person around who hasn't heard the latest hype news, which actually likely won't have a significant impact on your life. And what are you doing to do, or what are you going to do about it? During uncertain times when media and people feverishly pass headlines, take a pass. You can simply from time to time and you can sample from time to time, right? Every 3 to 5 days and get the information you need. If something really going down, people let you know about it. No use in hovering at the buffet table waiting for another pan of wings to be served. Opt in to become forced. And I put here becoming, this is important. So we're kind of butting up against this, putting a toe in the metaverse, right? The metaverse. Real-time digital tracking of our phones and cars, which is happening, and Elon Musk hints of neural links are all easements or are the encroachments into a life where opting in will require effort and consequences. How are you preparing for an omnipresent wet bulb? Meaning like, if you're in the metaverse or if you're in this neural link in 10 or 15 years, like you'll always be connected. You'll never be disconnected. So how do you deal with that? So I don't know. And how much force will it take to say, I'm not participating in this? Like, I'm not participating in a digital currency when, kind of everybody is, and they're expecting you to do digital currency. Like how much, right. So let's go over to the chat. So remember, wet bulb effect is saying you're you're saturated with negative information. It could be good information, but I guess if you're getting good information, like you'd want that to keep coming. But and the fact is, people just draw it on themselves. They get more and more phone alerts of people they talk to, the media, the dynamics, messaging, signs, whatever. It's all negative. So just like screw it, get out of it. Is it really going to end the world for you? And it's like no. So let's go back here. So our good friend Bull Rush saying, I took a break from reading your book to watch your stream. Guess it's at the Safety Doc night tonight. You bet. So you have a hard copy of that book, which is pretty fantastic, my good friend. Appreciate it. Finesse is saying, cranberry juice with vodka and deep freeze and ice cream. Yeah, I'm there. Cranberry. Maybe do a little line. I'm pretty easygoing. I'm just the sugary stuff I just can't handle anymore. I think it's an age thing. Sass, same Bull Rush. Good vodka tastes like Russian mail order brides. I don't know about that. Does Doc like redheaded? Yikes. Don't know what is all up on that. But so I am getting to be an old man. So I don't know what the fan club here of Doc is. So it's kind of funny. Although, like, I still have the full head of hair, and it really hasn't peppered out much, which is my hairstylist she's, I don't know if she's amazed, but she just said, you, for your age, like your hair, one, grows really fast and it's always very thick. So like in 4 weeks, it grows out to like crazy levels. And then, she cuts it and she's like, so like, it's good. I'm like, yeah, it's good stuff. So like people misplace my age. Like I'm 50 and most people don't think I'm 50. So because, right, the hair and not many wrinkles, I guess. So whatever. I'm very disagreeable, which is 50. I'm more disagreeable than I was in the past. So yeah, it's kind of funny. This is our good friend Bacon. Don't lie to Estaka. You're off the Sailor Jerry's because you don't want Vince and the gang to make fun of you for drinking all the rum like they do Cappy. Yeah, Cappy's a rum-aholic. Guy is like a bottomless pit of rum. So I don't know. I was really big on rum. I have different kinds of rum, but it's just, I don't, and again, I believe this is age related. I think you get to a point where the sugar just does you in on the sweetness of some, but I guess that doesn't hold true on the Long Island iced teas because those are sweet. I guess they're not quite as sweet, or I don't know. But yeah, I'm just gone. I just can't do rum anymore. It's a drink with vodka and cranberry. Yeah, Arnold Palmer maybe. I used to. This is thing I used to be able to eat fire sauce. Now I can't even stand Tabasco. I love Tabasco. I love hot sauces. I have a collection of hot sauces. In our fridge is like just a section of my different hot sauces for a lot of stuff. So I will hot sauce the hell out of anything. I have no issue with hot sauces at all. Like the hotter, the better. So, John Rice, who isn't? This is our good friend, Bull Rush, Ukrainian. Oh my goodness, I have moonshine filled with cranberries in freezer. Vanessa, go for it. I could use that right now. I might plant Carolina Reaper seeds soon. Nice, Vanessa. This is Bull Rush. To beat Skynet, we must become Skynet. Yeah, so my Windows 7 operating system here would get its ass kicked by Skynet. It is only uploading like half the time right now, so that is very disheartening. So it is a big signal to me. Like I have to restart the system and shut everything down. Like you have to hold the button in for 10 seconds. And I'm like, oh God, this isn't good. But yet, like I know it's like a solid computer. Like this was, all custom built and stuff. So it's just it's time, right? It's time to go in and to get it through the shop here. But yeah. So I was talking to a school administrator tonight, by the way, and I said, I said, what is your school doing for deep fake harassments? And they're like, well, nothing yet. And I'm like, well, it's starting to happen. So people will make deep fakes, or other students or staff members, whatever it would be. Like, here's a student who is smoking, and they weren't smoking. It's just a deep fake done with like a reface app or something like that, or whatever. But not to send reface app, down the river. It's not that. But I'm just saying, like, that gives you an idea of capabilities, right? Um, but I said this is happening. It's happening more prevalent, right? You have to what are you doing for policy or training? They're like, nothing. I said, you know where this is going to end? It's going to end in like some software company that's going to come up with something you're going to be able to run videos through and determine if it's a deep fake. But they'll only have a confidence level, like 80% deep fake, 50%, 20. So I said, this is a big thing. Like, you kind of have to be aware of, like, I'm old, like, I'm out of the profession. You're young, like, you have 20 years left in this. Like, you've got to be thinking about this. You don't have to have it figured out, but like, if you're applying for your first administrative job, this is something you should mention, like, that you're aware of this, and there has to be an interface between policy and investigation. I don't know anybody has the answers to this, but at least, like I said, that will give you a lead in an interview. Like, if you're talking about this stuff, like, every school district has this fear. And if you say, like, I'm aware of this and I want to be part of the solution to this, like, you have a better chance of getting hired. So again, from the old man here, it was kind of out of the mix. So yeah, somebody shared something with me tonight in one of the finals earlier tonight of something I had no idea about. They're like, did you know about whatever, like Act 133 or whatever? I'm like, I seriously didn't. Like, I'm up on most things, but like, I don't know what that is. What's this? I'm like, well, thanks. I appreciate that. Shine, this is Jim. Shine is a new project, but not for drinking. For my next used car, it will have the engine modified to run on that. Screw these fuel costs. Yeah, remember the whole, what the hell was it? Running on ethanol, right? Or the E85. Like, we had a car on the back of it that said this, E85. I'm like, we never once put that in it. But around us, we had big manufacturing plants put up for that. Like, within 15 miles of us, like, two big manufacturing plants for this E85. And now it's like not being used anywhere, and it's kind of dying. And right, if you're going to have a corn shortage or food shortage, like, you're not going to turn corn into E85. That just doesn't make sense. So they chose poorly. Jim, how many gal month is your goal? How many gallons a month? Jim, how many gallons a month is your goal? So I guess that's toward Jim McIntosh. Oh, moonshine. Good question. So this is Ting Ting. Bull Rush eats mail order brides for breakfast. Bull Rush. Like 22-inch monitors, that guy. Bacon. The coupe of C&T Designs. Yeah. Thought that this was the place for us degenerates. Well, that's cool. C&T Designs, I appreciate that guy. So sometime I may have some cool design in the back made by him. I don't know what it would be, though. Like, there's not really a safety doc logo. There is, like, what you see in the corner, but like, that wouldn't be worth his time to try to manufacture that in metal. Like, his talents are far beyond trying to create something like that, right? Like, I don't know what a safety doc metal artwork would look like. I mean, he's a super talented guy. Like, he could come up with something. It's not going to be that. Should have told her that's not the only thing that grows. Oh my goodness, Bull Rush. Look at Bull Rush. We call Cappy the Saudi Arabia of hatred. Cappy. Yeah, one of these. So Cappy bought a classic car. This is a true story, last summer. And so he calls me up and he says, hey, I'm going to be in your area. Like, let's do breakfast, stuff like that, which we did. Like, so maybe like 3 times a year, Cappy and I will, like, meet up for breakfast or lunch or something. So there's this classic car that he bought. Really nice car. Really nice vehicle. And we get into it. And the first thing he does, this is completely true, he hands me a fake seatbelt and he said, put this over yourself so it looks like you have a seatbelt. And I'm like, what? Because apparently I didn't understand the whole deal of, like, if you have the vehicle and if you're driving it under a regular license and you have to have it retrofitted with a seatbelt. I don't understand. Like, I don't get this, but it's a really cool vehicle. And I just, like, sounds good. so I basically like wore a seatbelt as an accessory that Cappy just handed me. So we're driving around in this classic car that he bought, and I have this it's like I felt like I was in the movie Tommy Boy with David Spade. So, and pretty soon I was waiting for Cappy to go, bees in the car, bees everywhere, I'm allergic, like get out and run like crazy, save yourself. We didn't get to that point, but so I appreciate him as a friend. He's a great guy. He's been a really good friend of mine for a number of years. But that was a funny story. Like, that was just quirky. I mean, like, and again, to be our age, like Cappy and I, and be like, here, like the seatbelt, which is attached to nothing, right? I don't know. Depends on how many cars. I'm barely starting. I saw a countertop 5-gallon unit for 150 vacuum, not heat. It's from Jim McIntosh. This is our friend Saskatchewan Too Many, who did the Cannonball Run up in Connecticut, 178 miles an hour. That was an average speed. So it's good. You kind of got to, the thing is, you got to worry about the tires, because the tires kind of, if you don't have really, really good tires at a Cannonball Run, that's where you start to run into issues. So it's tires. So I think he runs Goodyears or Michelin's. So they are reactionary, not like the whole world nowadays. Yeah. I want to have you on the show sometime again. That's too many, by the way. Fuel independence is sick, Jim. Good luck. Yeah. Actually, we bought a new SUV, which doesn't get great gas mileage, which kind of sucks right now, right? Like the last 10 or 15 years when gas was pretty affordable, and now we got rid of a more fuel efficient vehicle that was older and did have its issues, and it was time to get rid of it for an all-wheel drive SUV, which does not get good fuel efficiency. But we don't drive it a lot, so it's not like it's that big of an impact. It's not like it has to drive like 50 miles to work every day and stuff like that. But I'm like, what the hell? I filled it up today, and it was the most I've ever spent, I think, in my life filling up a vehicle. So, but Bacon Maldito, still waiting on someone to deep fake me behind the counter of my local Arby's doing lines of coke off Filipino immigrants. No, I don't know. I was at Arby's this week. If you do Arby's once a week, it's always a win. I think if you do it more frequently than once a week, it's a loss. And my daughter was with me. She loves Arby's. And I said, and the whole time we're walking, I said, I'm going to order curly fries. And I got up there and I'm like, yeah, I will do the large, like Arby meal with, crinkle cut. And then like we get done and she's like, you ordered crinkle cut. I'm like, what? She's like, crinkle, because she did. I'm like, oh, damn it. And it was too long. And the process was too far along to like go up and try to change it. So I'm like, should have done the curly fries. I'm like, why didn't you tell me? She's like, well, I thought you made an audible at the counter. Like you assessed what was happening. You changed the play. I'm like, no, like you should have interrupted me and said, hey, didn't you mean curly fries? I'm like, damn it, the hell. That was disappointing. That was sad. Crinkle cut were okay, but curly fries are better. Almost 40. Ting, you're very young. This is not our friend like it was in our 20s when we hated it in grade school. So yeah, I'm 50. Once you hit 50, yeah, I don't know, things start to slow down. I don't know. I was 50 years old. I don't know. I can still bike. I can still but like if I kneel down or bend over to tie my shoes, it's like I better have like other things I want to do. Like I have to pick things off the floor, other things, because like that's not as easy as when I was 30 or 40. Literally, when I was in my 40, like I was in like Rocky Balboa condition. I was in great shape. So, our good friend Bull Rush. I'll have you know, I sold all those monitors for hefty. You should. And congratulations, 22-inch monitors are like gold. It's new gold standard. If you open Fort Knox, what you'll find is not gold bars, but 22-inch monitors. Yeah, a whole hell of a lot of them stacked on top of each other, which is actually worth more. A 22-inch monitor sells for $3,000 an ounce. Gold is about $2,000 an ounce. So, Bull Rush, you're doing well, my friend. Jim McIntosh, E85 is fine, but sourcing the ethanol from corn is dumb. I agree. Sugar, beets, or switchgrass, right? Which we don't have here. That's just corn. So, yeah. Ting Ting, speak to yourself. Oh, lady. I'm 52. Jim McIntosh, I'm 52. Go to figure out how to get my 120 years. Lots of time left. Yeah, man. I've been amortizing out my lifespan. It's because as I look at like my retirement planning and stuff like that, I'm like, I amortize everything to 105 years. And I'm like, I highly doubt I will be alive in 105 years. Like I do not, or I mean, like, I don't believe I'll see my 105th birthday. I just do not envision really any scenario where that where that plays out. I just don't see that. So, but yeah, even whatever with technology or things, I'm like, no, it's just that is likely not happening. So, which I'm fine with. I am not. My CPA, my tax CPA, and we had this discussion, and she's like, a lot of people get this messed up. Like they try to preserve like a lot of income and stuff for when they're 85, 90 years old. And like at that point, like you're not doing the things that you would do now at 50 or 60, right? That you're putting off traveling or, whatever it is. And so I like her mindset. Like, I think we're on pace. We're in the same wavelength with that. She's like, it's crazy. People try to think, like, I'm going to save all this money up front when I'm 85 and I'm going to do stuff like, no, you're not going to be traveling, doing all this stuff when you're 85. Bacon, not the bees. Best line is, God. So it's the old movie. Crinkle cut fries remind me too much of school. Yeah, bulrush. And I would say like the crinkle cut fries from Arby's are nothing great. So they're okay. I only remember they were rated for 150, maybe the tires. So yeah, Cannonball Run. I have to go. Whenever you buy tires here, like in Wisconsin, you have to look at how flexible the tires remain at minus 30 degrees, right? So that's the whole thing, is because it gets so cold here. If you have a high polyurethane rating in tires and stuff, like you get to 20 degrees and the tires are useless. They just harden, right? So you have to get a tire that has a lot of give, but then it wears faster. So like the tires that were original on my Buick LaCrosse at 20,000 miles, I had to ditch them because they were useless in winter, completely useless. And even now on our new Buick, even though it has 4-wheel drive, I'm not sure, or all-wheel drive, I'm not sure how long I'll keep those tires versus like swap those out for some Michelin, that have a softer tread or something like that. It makes a big difference here. It's not the snow, it's the temperature. When you get down to 0 or minus 20, which is a substantial part of being here, the tires just suck if they're not rated for cold weather. They're just horrible. Literally, like you can be on level ground at a stop sign or a stoplight, it turns green and you'll hit the gas and you'll just spin, right? Because you just have no traction. This is bacon and bulrush. I don't mind the fries at Del Taco. I just got to ask them to make them extra crispy since they don't cook them thoroughly. Del Taco. By the way, I really miss Taco Bell's menu. Like I miss soft tacos, steak tacos, and chili cheese burritos, which they got rid of. Like all my college foods are gone. So it's really disappointing. The Speedo went, this is Sass, to 140, and I buried it, probably pushing the rod tires. It was not a flat straight run either. Sneak road. Whoa, Sassed on his Cannonball Run. It's crazy, buddy. Take care. Bull rush to me. If the safe dog dies due to an accident, I'm going to laugh a lot. Why? Why would you do that? I actually think if I were to, I think one of the if you were to place bets on how the safety doc is going to exit the meat world, it could be like either a bike accident or a bike heart attack, because one is like bike accident because the bike, like every year, like we have 2-3 people killed in our county by bike accidents, like being hit by cars. So that could be one, or the other is a heart attack, because like I do a lot of like steep inclines and stuff, and I monitor my heart rate and stuff like that. But again, like the younger you are, the better you can handle that versus like the older. And if that happens, it happens. So I'm like, it's just the way that it is. I think those are, I would put my bets on those two. So yeah. Jim is saying to Save Doc, try to get one more year from that computer. In a year, everything will have brand new stuff available. So current high zoot parts will be second or third best. So, yeah. I mean, the issue I'm running in now that I didn't have before is that the thing will freeze. So I'll have everything booted up and I'll be working, then it freezes, which is, I never had this before. Again, I'm running, 3.3 gigahertz Intel processor, 32 gig RAM. And so then it just won't respond. So I'll just have to shut it off. And then I have to do the whole, F1 startup, F10 and all this. And I'm like, if that really starts to accelerate, I don't know. I don't know. Something's quirky then. So, this is from Bolarosh to Sast. Thing about tire speed ratings is their 4 tires are loaded to their max. So I didn't know that. So it's from our bacon. So, and my whole studio here is a tax write-off. So anyway, right. Because I do teach virtual for, one of the semesters and things like that. But anyway, I do need to update this system. Boris is saying, just put slicks on the back of your car, you'll be fine. So yeah, I have my Buick LaCrosse, which is a very long vehicle. So like the depth perception always screws me up on that, because I'll pull up in a parking spot and I'll get out and they'll be like 4 feet in front of the car yet. It's just a very long vehicle. I mean, compared to like our SUV, this thing has got to be like 2 foot longer than our SUV. I mean, it's strange. The dimensions of this car, it's so big, like the footprint of it. So yeah, I like it because it's very stable. It's a 6-cylinder, 311 horsepower. So it cruises, but it is just this really big footprint of a vehicle. And, it only has the backup sensor. So like the new one has all the side sensors in front and tells you where you are in space, and like up above sensors, stuff like that. This doesn't have any of it. So you're still kind of guessing. And like I said, I can never accurately guess where the front of the vehicle is. Like I have a gross idea of where it is. And usually like I'll be like, I guess it's where it is. It's parked where it is. So is there a reason you did that, sir? I'm like, yes. So I don't have an accelerometer, but the G-force on those corners were epic for a car. I bet you my LaCrosse could corner very well because I have wide tires and it's very low. But yeah, I used to corner like crazy in my Dodge Intrepid, which was also one of those like push the wheels to the outside vehicles. That was a horrible vehicle, by the way. But yeah, I think I could do that. I don't drive that way anymore. Intel, NVIDIA, AMD, ARM, all of products do. Okay. By the way, here's a story. I used to own like a lot of AMD stock before the September 11th attacks, like 1,000 shares. And then I sold them. They were like $3 a share. Like after September 11th, I liquidated my positions. And if I would have held it, I'd be worth like $4 million right now. So it's a true story. I actually have the receipts for that. So it's disheartening. The safety doc, feel free. I used to have a Crown Vic. So yeah, I like the vehicle. There's no negatives to it. It's just like in space, it's a strange vehicle. And because I don't drive a lot, like I get an oil change once every 6 months, because I don't drive a lot. And the older I get, like the more disconnected I am from the road and the vehicle and stuff. So I'm like, it is this weird sensation for a vehicle that is that damn big. So it's a great vehicle to take on vacation. Like our SUV is good with all-wheel drive and full panoramic sunroof and all this other. For some of the vacations we take, like that's awesome. But the other like cruising vacations, like it's the big vehicle with the, you know, the bigger engine and stuff like that. So, but yeah. Brandon teaching me about AR-15 deadly weapons was very informing. About AFT has no clue. Oh my goodness. No kidding, Ting Ting. It's crazy. It's actually crazy. Lotus suspension hard to beat. Yeah. Don't know. Never had one. Be pretty awesome though. But I did have a 1988 Chrysler LeBaron for what it's worth. And I did have raised white letter tires on that and white with red trim and then the burgundy seats. When I worked at Menards back in 91, 92, and I still had that vehicle, people I worked with would come out after work just to see that vehicle. I always had it shined up really well. I had the tires like all, you know, darkened and stuff like that. It was people, honestly, there were people that would just ask if they could get a ride in the LeBaron that had the steel covers for the headlights. And when you would turn the headlights on, the steel covers would come down and retract. It was just really cool. To this day, it's still a hell of a cool vehicle. So it was a cool vehicle to own at that time. You can get a G-force meter pretty affordable. So yeah. Whoa. This is bacon to, or it is Bull Rush to Jim. Batgirls. Oh my goodness, Bull Rush. So Sass got her bag phone at 89. I dated a girl in high school who had a car phone. So in her Mercedes, her parents' Mercedes. Yeah, car phone. Interesting. Doc only gets this from bacon, gets vehicles that use environmentalist tears or nitrous oxide. So crazy. Yeah. I drive so little that I actually have to like drive to make sure I run enough gas through the vehicle that it doesn't go stagnant. It's just not what I don't have to do it anymore. Like I don't have a place to go to work and all the shopping is in town here really. So Cameron, make sure your computer uptime isn't too high. Long uptime tend to give a lot of little errors. So right. Cameron, I believe you. I have no idea what you're talking about though. I don't know. I'm not really the computer guy. So I know that one of my fans has died. So, and I trust the dude though in our community who does this stuff. That he's, and I also have a friend who's a computer whiz, who built, you know, his own stuff for like the last 40 years that I could take it to him if I absolutely needed to. But, yeah, there's other things down here. Like the office has the updated flooring. It's like more modernized, but the one wall has to be painted. And I'm really debating. I don't know if you remember Bed Bath and Beyond, which I don't go to those stores, but like, it was part of our mall close to us, stuff like that. But they would have behind the counter, they would have what would look like a window and it'd be like sunny and bright outside. It was just like this artificial recreation, but they sell those now commercially. You can get those, or you can get like a ceiling, like where it looks like you're looking up at the sky. I wouldn't do that but I could see like in front of me this illusion. I think psychologically it would be a really good thing for me to replace what's in front of me with like a pretend window that was looking out onto a very sunny landscape. I don't know how much that would be, but I still think it would be worth it. And maybe even to do that above me in this quadrant, or I'm going to consider those things because I think there is this whole psychological trick fragment to do that. But overheating can't be fixed without fixing the cooling. Fragmented virtual memory can cause issues. I did defragment. I was 12% fragmented SAS. I did defragment, so that helped. So yeah, I'll have to do something with the fans. That could be the issue. Now it's weird though, because it's always like 50 degrees down here too, and zero humidity. So that's a season. Whoa, I don't know. So I can sense though something needs to be done, and I think if I wait, it could be a real problem. I really can't be down here someday and just boot and the system doesn't turn on. That would be bad. Now I do have my laptop, which was fully built out this laptop at the time too. So like a $4,000 laptop. And then that's on Windows 10. And I use it very rarely, so I could go back to my laptop. That's what I'm going to have to do to get me by for a while. And then have this system rebuilt. Like I said, I have 3 monitors. I have 6 feet of monitors in front of me. And then at some point, the main monitor I'm going to replace with a curved monitor, which will be bigger. And then I'll push these side monitors out. I should have got some device to stack these monitors so I could go up above. And then I used to have a setup where I had a monitor in the corner where I could show movies. Ugh. All right. Where I would watch like Shawshank Redemption, stuff like that. But defrag memory, defrag disk. Okay, you have to tell me more. But reboot defrags memory. All right. That could be part of the issue going on here, but I also think there needs to be just an overhaul of this system. So, what causes a green screen? I haven't dealt with that, thankfully. No green screen. Here's what I am dealing with. I used to be able to have 3 monitors in front of me. I could take the screen in front of me and move it to the right, and it would just like fully become full screen. And now it doesn't do that anymore. It like becomes partial screen. And that's become a real annoyance. Both of my screens, like if I drag something over, it doesn't immediately full screen. So if you know like the trick to do that, I know I can like double click on the up above and it'll full screen, but then like that's an extra step. Like it always used to, I just move it over, boom, it was just full screen. It doesn't do that anymore. So I don't know what the hell's going on. What the hell's going on here? So, by the way, this is the book that released last week, The Velocity of Information, Human Thinking During Chaotic Times. Please, I'm begging you, go into Amazon or places that sell books, get this book. Yeah, it is a little pricey as a paperback. I don't set the price, the publisher does. I put 3,000 hours into this. It's well-researched. You're not going to find typos. It has custom graphics. It's really, really a good book. I mean, $33, you're like you go out to eat once, like how much money are you thrown away, right? Or you fill up with gas or whatever. Not that but I understand, but it is a great book. Get it, leave a review for it. Like it means a lot to me to get this out there. Like it's such an important work and you're going to find it to be entertaining. You're going to be like, this is a really good book, right? Like it is really well done. It's the best work I've ever done in my life, and so I'm excited for it to be out there. So, and because my book does have pictures. I do have about 25 between either pictures or diagrams in the book. Some of the pictures I took, others I didn't, but in addition to that, you're going to have custom figures that Amy K. DiStefano created, which I roughed out, and then she put. So this book has a lot of value to it, plus the interviews and everything else. But it really means a lot to me for you to review it and to encourage people to buy it, right? And it's one of those, you get done writing a book like this. I hate to say it, but you're like, well, like who's going to really read this? Because it's not going to be one of these like, these big romance novels. It's going to be at the end shelf at a Walmart or something like that. This is it's an intellectual book, right? But it's not a word salad jargony book. Like it's really cool, really well done. But you've got to want to accept an intellectual read, which I think a number of people do. But again, like if your whole thing is watching Netflix 23 hours a day, it's just not what you're going to be into. That's where I really overthought how impactful the book would be in my community, because I donated 2 copies to my library, 2 signed hard copies, and like they're not being checked out that much. So School of Errors was checked out all the time. Like for like a year, it was always like nonstop checked out. This book isn't being checked out, although it's a great book. But I just, people are not they're into Netflix and they're into easy stuff and eating ice cream, right? And just hanging out. And this whole thing that feeds your intellectual curiosity isn't there for a lot of people. And that's where, you write a book like this and you realize there might be 1 million people who are really into it out of, 200 million adults. You might get 1 out of 20 people. That's it. And, so it is kind of this weird thing, I feel. But congrats. I appreciate that, Seth. To write a book, it's months of putting together an outline. It's writing a proposal to a potential publisher. It's written under a contract, right? So you have to convince them it's worth doing. Then all the stuff that goes into writing it, to proofreading it, to member checks, to interviewing people, to transcriptions, to just everything else. And it's like, then it finally comes together and it's like, whoa, it's just really good. So appreciate that. Borush Bacon. Bacon is an exercise fanatic. Maybe a pop-up book edition. Holy smokes, that'd be crazy. Thinking is hard for the masses. Yeah. So this is something, again, not to be in a demeaning way, but it is something, and this book is not written in a way where people couldn't interface with it. That's not the thing. It's just, like my grandfather, I think, went to 6th grade or 8th grade, but is his formal education. But he read encyclopedias, right? Like he sought knowledge out for himself. And like this book isn't beyond the capacity for almost anyone to read. They just have to choose to read it. I think it's more that it's their positionality, right? If there's something in here that they don't agree with, they'll just stop. And I think people are just more in this entertainment adrenaline rush than an intellectual adrenaline rush. So that's where velocity of information, however awesome that it is, and it's really awesome. It's an extraordinary work. And I think it'll be more appreciated over time, as School of Errors was. School of Errors sells as robustly today as it did the day it was released. But this book will gain as people talk about it and share it and more reviews and things like that. But it is this weird thing where people are just not willing to engage with scholarly work. And I kind of knew that going in, but that's not a reason for not writing it, but just a reality, right? Like if I wrote a, steamy romance novel or something, whatever, it would probably sell 10 times as much, right? Or whatever, or some crazy. No, I guess in this theme, you'd have to do a conspiracy theory. Like you'd have to totally sell out into a conspiracy theory to get people in. So, but again, I think over time it holds up. Did you include Sparkly Vampire? So where I did not. I worked a long time on the press release for how we would do the heading, and it was like new book reveals people's breaking point during chaos, which we thought would be interesting for people, right? And although it really wasn't, like, right? Even though you think that would be like a real catchy title, I don't know what else could have been there. So it's weird because you have to pick all these things out. And there have been people who have been reading my book and then they put on Kindle quotes, like sections of the book, which I really like. And I'm like, maybe that should have been the title, or like the heading I use for like press releases. But I'm like, I don't know what else I can do. Like you've got to want it, right? You have to want this information. You have to want to know how the machine works. And if you don't, you're just not going to subscribe to it. But I think there's enough people out there. Again, it's like School of Errors. School of Errors caught on after people read it and they started to share it with other people. Then it started to get momentum and it just took off. By the way, like I have this story. So this book is a true story. I received a phone call early in the week from a man in Florida. And he said, I got your book in the mail. And I want to tell you the story of what happened. He's like, last night we had tornadoes come through our area. So he said, minimal to moderate damage. Like, I'm okay with my house stuff. My mailbox was ripped out of the ground, thrown a block away. And I'm going to send you a picture of it. So, which he did. And he said, your book was inside of that in a mailer. And I pried open this metal mailbox, which was all bent up because this tornado threw it. your book was in this mailer and it was completely fine. Like not a dent on it. And he's like, the whole thing was like surrounded by water, like no water got in the mailbox. He's like, so I just wanted to tell you. And like, so he found my contact information, which isn't that hard to find, but, and he's like, I wanted to tell you the story because I know like when you present or things like you probably could share this, like it'd be really fascinating. And here's a picture of it. And I was like, oh my God, like it's pretty, and thanks for ordering the book, by the way. But yeah, Jim McIntosh, like when the Henry Ford graduated high school, his education was, yeah, no kid. Yeah. Henry Ford. And there's a, Henry Ford, when he was growing up, like in elementary school, he skipped school one day. A true story. He built a dam in this little river, this small little river, like you could maybe like 4 or 5 feet wide stream or whatever. And he was trying to figure out like a water will work, but it flooded this area of his town, including the school. So he got in trouble for that. It's a true story. Bacon to Jim, based on the BMW computer, I almost got out of my car to slice to death because he couldn't figure out how to get out of my car fast enough. I'd say you're underselling that. Underselling that. Whoa, Bacon. Most people today couldn't pass the 4th grade test for these. Probably so. It's certainly, yeah, it's weird. I certainly can't. So, yeah, I don't know. I would, my chemistry, my ability to do like chemistry stuff and quantitative mathematics really peaked when I was in my 40s. I couldn't do that stuff when I was in high school or my 20s. And when I got into my 40s and like my PhD program, it all kind of came together. Like I just could do it. I don't know if I could do it anymore, but I mean, but anyway, as we get close to winding things down here, let's do a couple things here. I've got to clean up this office, but I can't do it until this class is done. This is the most honest book ever written about the $3 billion school safety industry. A little closer to you here, but it really is the most honest book ever written about the $3 billion school safety industry. School of Errors, Rethinking School Safety in America. It's just not about school safety. It's a huge section in here about the 9/11 harbor rescue from Lower Manhattan. 500,000 people in 9 hours. How did it happen? Like there was just one command from Admiral Loy of the Coast Guard saying, hey, if you got a boat, get down here and do it. There's a lot to be carried forward from those chapters in the book and the whole thing with normalcy bias. So it's a really great book. So I highly recommend it. It's coming out in audio, hopefully not in the voice you hear right now, but it's coming out in audio. That I narrate it in July. It's also coming out in paperback. This, my friends, is the preeminent book about how people function, the human condition during 90 days or more of chaos. I wrote this starting in February of 2020, concluded in September of 2021. It's a damn good book. 471 endnotes, but they're all Chicago style. Meaning as you read, you'll see like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not going to, they'll be at the end of the chapter, so it doesn't disrupt your reading. This is a really good book. 10 interviews. Larry Lawton, Joel Dolio, Clay Martin, Sniper, Morgan Rogue, Survivalist. It's a really good book. Check it out. So Sast is going to turn in here. Good night. Good night, Sast. Appreciate it. I'm going to turn in too because I'm losing my voice. Oh my God. Later, Sast. All right. Bull Rush, our good friend there in Texas. So he's a advocate of 22-inch monitors. Personally, I think that's too small. I go with a larger monitor if I'm you personally. I have 3 27-inch monitors, and the main one I need to go larger. So, and I do have the real estate because I have this massive 1940s desk to push my side monitors out and stuff, but I need to go like with a 32 curved on my main monitor. And I really should stack monitors. And I don't know. I've got a couple things. I had like a really nice, just was a flat screen TV. It wasn't like high def. And I like sold it at a rummage sale for like $10, which was stupid. I should have kept it and just run DVDs off. Because one of the things when I'm working is I'd like to have something in the background, have a movie playing, right? That I'm not really paying attention to, but it's something. Just so that was among the stupid mistakes of getting rid of that monitor because it played my video game systems too. But got a link. I'll give it a whirl. A moderately sharp score of the percentile. I don't know what you're talking about, Jim. If it's an online IQ test, I don't know what it is, but good night. It's asked one too many. So, all right, everybody. Let me just check here if I have anything in the old photo file to share. See, it's the same thing. It's not moving. It's something I screwed up here on my settings. There's nothing wrong with the computer, but it's not. It should populate to the full screen. It's not doing that anymore. I've tried to fix it, but that's not working. So, all right, let me do this one. All right. So I took this picture on April 8th, 3 days ago, outside of the window of my house. Let me bring this one up on screen here. Share. What? Share. Stop screen. Share screen. This was 3 days ago. It's my backyard. 3 days ago. So I planted these spruce with my dad. These were 2 feet tall. They were both in 5-gallon pails, literally 2 feet tall. We planted these in 2002. And I had another one over here, but then because there's already trees here, it started to grow into everything and I had to like cut it out of here. But yeah, these 2 trees. And so this one is, they're like 30 foot here, 40 foot here. These things were less than 2 foot, little scrawny little buggers in a 5-gallon pail. So it looks beautiful, but again, this is April 8th. This sucks. This is horrible. So that was 3 days ago outside my back window. So in back of that is some parkland. It kind of narrows, it widens up into a big protected marsh over here to the right. And then there's some homes in back of me. But in summer, this all greens up. So it's kind of like living in your own private area. It's just kind of sandy soil, even though I've tried to recondition it. Once you get in back of kind of this line here that goes from this birch tree over to this oak, like that back is, as long as it's green, it doesn't matter if it's weeds or whatever. That's all I'm aiming for back there. But this is the remnants of this is the outline of the flower garden, which I pour ash on. I have a big pile of ash back here in back of these trees from my fireplace. So then I retrieve that and kind of spread it over the lawn in spring. So like I said, it's scenic. This would be great for like a December 8th, but not an April 8th. So pretty damn disappointing. So what I did is I took that and I sent it to my friends in Florida, like Rodney. It was like, hey, it's 81 today, or my friend Rich, it's like, 78. And like, yeah, I'm happy for you guys. But like bull rush, like I said, it's too damn cold up here. It changes a man. It changes you after a while. You just, I don't know. It's not good. So I call it nature's dandruff. Nature's dandruff. So like I said, looks great. And it probably is good in December or January. It's not what you want to wake up to in April. It just sucks. Absolutely sucks. So yeah, it's really weird because like I said, it's not an issue of being able to sell the house. There's multiple people who would be willing to buy the house. It's the fact that I can't convince everybody else in the house to move. So I would be out of here. I'd be like, yes, boom, here's the money. And I have like I think I have like 4 places I kind of go. Like one is Dewey, Arizona. I kind of like that area. Jasper, what is it? Georgia, like northern Georgia. I kind of like Paducah, Kentucky, but there's probably reasons I wouldn't go there. There's not a lot. There's like a kind of a sinking ship right there. It's good to visit, probably not a good place to invest in a house. New Braunfels, right? Texas. I have friends who live there, interested in that area. St. Joe's, Florida on the interior toward the Gulf Panhandle. Although, like, storm damage tends to impact that area, so probably not so much. But up north of that, 30 minutes is Valparaiso, which would be nice. So I'm there. I'm even semi-warm to Dothan, Alabama. So like it wouldn't take a hell of a lot to convince. Well, I would just be picking among those, amongst those. Like I'm just so yeah. I'm just out of. I just do not like this cold weather. So have my fill of the state too. Just not. I'm just Wisconsin's. It's just done for me. So. But well, everybody, I thank you so much. Ting Ting or anybody out there, if you're interested in reviewing this book, please get a hold of me. My contact information. Well, let's just do this since it's not that hard to find. Not that you have to do this whole like game to try to find out how do I contact Doc. This is how to contact me right there. safetydoc@gmail.com. Let me know who you are, right? And then, but yeah, I need reviews. I need people to read and review the velocity of information. So that would be good. But everybody, thank you so much. I'm going to take us out here with some commercials. I have to get up early in the morning. I have, let me see here, how many final exams tomorrow? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 final exams that I am administering tomorrow. It's a lot. It'll be a long day. So those are all good. And I'm the professor, so, but it's a lot of final exams to administer in a day. So start off bright and early. I have a couple, and I have to sign books tomorrow too, because I got to get books down to the post office between this. So yeah. My post office is like always it's like a little edgy. There are certain people at the post office used to have like really jolly old people there. Let's just be honest. When I first moved here, and then like my daughter, when she was like 4 or 5 years old, she had this like post office Bert and Ernie, like Ernie, and she took it down there and she gave it to the postal guy, and he put it up on a shelf and back. And it was there for a couple of years, and now it's like it's hit and miss. You either get the people who don't seem like they're at all glad they're there, and they're not good to interact with. And then, or else you get the people who are really helpful. So like when you mail a couple books, like if you mail like 4 or 5, like it seems like a real burden for like some of the postal workers, especially if you're mailing something that's to another country. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm not looking forward to this interaction. I'm like, that's your job. So it's a lefty's ruining everything. Don't blame me, Doc. So I don't know. Yeah, man. I don't know, man. You got, like I said, it's this wet bulb effect. You gotta get yourself out of there. I had my own schedule to keep, so I couldn't stop and watch the poop show. No kidding. All right. Well, I appreciate all you guys. Jim McIntosh. Let me do a shout out here. Solitude Surfer, Bull Rush. And Jim McIntosh, who I might have given a shout out to already. Sass One Too Many, who has left us, but he's in a different time zone. That guy needs his. I don't know if he is in a different time zone anymore. That might just be a big myth, because I think he moved to the same time zone I am. Yeah. So that just means that guy needs more caffeine. It is Bull Rush Cameron. It's Cameron again. Bull Rush Cameron Jim. Ting Ting. All right, and Sass. All right. Appreciate all you guys. This show is, we've got the number of viewers. We just don't have a number of watch hours, but we're slowly getting there to the point where we might be able to monetize this for a $1.99 super chat. So that'll be the day. I do think I'm going to bring back Face Validity Fridays here at some point, too, once this class kind of digests through the system. So this is Heath Nightall. This is Cameron. Good show. I appreciate it, buddy. So, appreciate all you guys. This is Jim. Hello and goodbye. This is from Jim. Appreciate that. It's Solitude Server. Love your work. I appreciate that, buddy. So, all right, I'll take us out the same way. Haven't heard anything about Bert and Ernie since you were on Cappy's older brother podcast. Hope they're yeah, it's crazy. Bert and Ernie. Oh my God. So, yeah, well, let me take us out the same way I took us. I appreciate all you guys. I'll have a good show for us next week. I don't know what the topic is yet. I gotta think that one out a little bit, and remember the book is out there. So, and I have a ton of stuff on Twitter. Like if you can just go in and retweet, and LinkedIn. If you're not a friend of me on LinkedIn, go in there and find me on LinkedIn. And but on Twitter, like just retweet this stuff, like because there's a whole bunch of stuff out there right now. All right, so I appreciate that, and I'm going to take us out of here with a back-to-back commercial. So thank you, everybody.
As chaos erupts, torrents of conflicting yet urgent messages gush from media outlets. What is the magnitude of the incident, and what should people do to protect themselves? Dr. David Perodin clarifies human behavior during days, weeks, months, or even years of chaos. Reporter James David Dixon of the Detroit News proclaims, "The velocity of information is an education in the way people react and adapt to change. Never has it been more important to sift facts and stories for truth and meaning. The velocity of information will teach you how people have done it in history, in the modern day, and even in prison. There are teachable moments on every page." Buy The Velocity of Information, Human Thinking During Chaotic Times. Available from your favorite bookstore or online retailer. A must-read for parents, teachers, and taxpayers. Dr. David Perodin has written the most honest book about the $3 billion school safety industrial complex. Attorney James Sibley proclaims, "A brave demonstration of speaking truth to power. School of Errors rips the lid off the billion-dollar school safety industry." Using real-world examples of successful responses in desperate situations, David contrasts the expensive window dressings pitched to panic parents with the inexpensive and effective approaches proven to actually work. Read this book before you let your school waste another precious dollar on meaningless safety theater. Buy the international bestseller School of Errors, Rethinking School Safety in America, now at Barnes & Noble or Amazon.